Yeah. Well, behind me here is 150-gallon reef tank with some Apex gear and some non-Apex gear. And on the other side of the wall behind this tank is where all the plumbing and sump stuff is, so that it's not in my living room. And my living room is nice and quiet. I don't hear waterfalls and things too much. I just hear the waves from the pumps. Yeah, yes. Um, the Apex basic system um, does not require that all of your stuff be manufactured by them. Uh, for example, if you just have a skimmer and you want to be able to turn the skimmer on and off, you can buy any skimmer you want and plug it into an outlet that's controlled by the Apex. And so I've got a Reef Octopus skimmer. It's not made by Apex. It has no special Apex interface, but the Apex web and phone app can turn it on and off remotely. The lights that you see above the tank there, those are the Ecotech Radion lights, obviously not made by Neptune Systems, but my Apex controller programs those lights and can turn them up and down and on and off and do all the things that the Ecotech controller can do.
Wow.
Uh, for example, I'm going to pop over to my controller. So the Apex system, it has a web page that you can open up, or it has a phone app that you can open up. Now I'm going to the website and I'm clicking on part of the stuff that has to do with my lighting system. And I just clicked on a button that says preview. For example,
Okay.
and you now see the lights went off and now they're coming back on,
Wow.
changing in intensity. And what I'm doing is I'm previewing my settings that normally run through a 24-hour cycle.
Okay.
So that's just one example of, um, the Apex can control some non-Apex equipment depending on what the equipment is and what features you want to have through it.
So in other words, you can they do provide skimmers and lights and pumps and power wave makers and things like that that are exactly made to fit the Apex control system. But if you already have equipment, I'm guessing there's some limited availability, or can you use any equipment with it? Does it have to have a certain, like chip or something like that?
You can ultimately use any equipment you want with the
Really?
Apex controller. It's just a question of, depending on what that equipment is and how it was made, whether the Apex system can or can't do certain things with it. Like
Gotcha.
the power outlets, it's either on or off.
Hmm.
So, anything you can either turn it on or off.
Okay.
But for example, the Radion lights, in their case, Ecotech has a wireless control protocol for the Radion lights,
Hmm.
and Neptune Systems made a Wi-Fi box that speaks the same radio frequencies protocol that Ecotech made for those lights.
Oh,
And there's
cool.
also some of their pumps also are controllable through that same module. So if instead of the Apex wave pumps, if you wanted to use, and there's one kind that they do control, one kind they don't control. You just have to look that up before you go out and buy something. But if you have the Ecotech MP40s or MP20s or whatever
Mm-hmm.
are wirelessly controllable through the Ecotech app, then you can use the same wireless module that I'm using with those lights to control those wave making pumps.
Very cool. Hey, Ray asked, hi, Ray, by the way. I'll put out a join link as soon as we go through some of the specs and everything. And then if you feel like joining, you can. We can always talk whatever you want. But Ray made a great question that I should have
Uh-huh.
asked first. Sorry. But
Yeah.
he asked regarding Seahorse tanks, but just in general, what are the benefits to using a control system and what is best about this one?
Well, one of the first things is that um, the Apex controller, and there's two versions of it that you can buy, has probes that you can put into your display tank or into your sump that can keep track of your water's temperature, pH, and some other parameters are optional. And so that's the first thing is it will log the changes in temperature and pH over time, and you can always see that.
Wow.
Also, you have the ability, like I was saying, to go on your phone or through a website and turn things off and on. So if you're not at home, but you think there's some kind of a problem, you can go to your phone or you can go to the website. You can see, well, what is the temperature? What is the pH? What is the salinity? Are they
Wow.
going back? And depending on what's happening, you may say, okay, I need to turn off, say if the temperature is going high and
Mm.
your heater is being controlled by your Apex, then you can override its normal settings and just turn it off completely until you can get home and find out why your tank is so hot. That
Gotcha.
would be one kind of example. Um, uh, Depending on what equipment you have attached, you may have other things that you can control and adjust. But that's the first thing is that you have remote control over your system and you have it logging what's happening with your system so that you can view that and see what it's doing. Um, and there's some advanced things that you can do after that, but just fundamentally, there's those two things
Mm-hmm.
that you've got a central control hub with logging of what's been happening and the ability to do some on-off controls or adjustments, and you don't have to be right in front of your tank.
Sure. That's a big deal. The thing that I was most
Yeah.
interested in is that temperature control.
Uh,
In a reef tank, there's a lot more things that you have to control, and the parameters are more important. And in a seahorse tank, though, that temperature, and frankly, to me, I personally think that the pH is really important too. Um,
uh,
that's
and,
debatable, but
and the nice thing, see, if those are the only stats that you want,
yes,
I was saying a few minutes ago, there's two versions of the Apex controller that you can purchase.
right.
The full one that I have is like $850 and it's
Mhm.
got 4 probes. But if you only want temperature and pH, you can buy the Apex EL, which is about $200 less.
Gotcha. We're gonna share the screen in a minute. Try to
Yeah.
and show these items also. But
Uh-huh.
another thing that you mentioned, just while there's a seahorse person asking questions, another thing that
Yes.
you mentioned is the dosing pumps and that people use them for like pods. Right? Did you not say that?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Um, so Apex sells a module, an optional module that you don't have to purchase called the DOS, DOS.
Okay.
And it's two what's called a peristaltic pump. That's a fancy word for a type of pump that is used in things like um, medical devices
Hmm.
to pump blood. Um, and they're also used with our aquarium stuff because they don't. they won't like chop up things like a regular pump that you would use to circulate your water. You know, if something like pods or brine shrimp go through that, they just get shredded.
Right.
A peristaltic pump works a little bit differently, and it measures what it's dosing by the milliliter.
Wow.
So if you have a reservoir of, say, copepods or phytoplankton, and you want to put in 1 milliliter per hour, for example, you can do that.
Very, very cool. And
So,
go ahead.
I was just going to say, so it's just a matter of like, you know, what's the liquid that you want to put into the tank, and you know, as long as whatever it is that's in that liquid will go through that tubing and be okay, then yeah, you can set it up. Some people use the dose pumps to do water changes.
How cool.
Well, one dose pump will be pulling out, you know, so many milliliters per hour from your sump or your tank, and then the other dose pump is set in reverse, and it's pumping water from some reservoir into your tank.
So literally, technically, I mean, and I want you to share with us exactly what you have on your system and kind of go through your beautiful system behind you. But for anybody watching, even if they're talking about a smaller Seahorse tank or whatever, the benefit that I'm hearing most is that not only, like, I mean, everybody with seahorses wants to know what to do on vacation. And you know, I'm almost even wondering if you couldn't somehow hook up a cam to this whole system, or even separately have a cam going so you know what's going on in the tank. But it sounds like you could literally like run your tank, like water changes, feeding copepods, adjusting temperature, all from
Yeah.
your phone. That's
Yes.
amazing.
Yes. Exactly.
I mean, that's like the answer to vacationing.
Yeah.
Seriously. Um,
Well, you know, when we recently had the MACNA event,
yes.
while I was at MACNA, my salinity was going up, and I wasn't sure what was going on,
Hmm.
but it let me know that it was going upwards. And so I got on my laptop at my hotel room and looked at the graphs and charts and decided that the amount that it was going up was not that severe. Adjusted the threshold at which the alerts were being sent, and told it to turn off my dosers because I figured that my calcium and alkalinity were contributing,
Hmm.
and saw that it didn't go any higher. And so I was like, okay, that's not dangerous.
Wow.
And I didn't have to drive back home and try to figure out what was up.
Right. I mean, obviously, it's called a monitor. You know, it's a monitoring
Yeah.
system. So this is common sense. But to me, you know, the next thing I'm hoping that you share is like after you share what's in your system, because we do want to hear
Uh,
that. But
yeah.
I really, the one thing I've always been curious about is I want that peace of mind of
Yeah.
monitoring my tank. And I was
Yeah.
even told that it can monitor a couple tanks depending on the system,
Yeah.
but I wouldn't know what to buy. So we'll
Right.
get into the website and look
Yeah.
at what someone can do as a minimalistic, just to
Uh,
control your tank from your phone and on vacation, and you know, go from there. But why don't you tell us very quickly, you know, explain your system and what all equipment you have. I know you said, I don't think you're able to. Last week he took me through a walkthrough, guys. It was really cool. He actually walked through and showed me all the cords. But he set up this beautiful where we can see his tank in the background. So why don't you at least just tell us, Denny, what's on your
yeah.
system?
So um, uh, what I have in the back, that's the actual Apex equipment,
Mm-hmm.
is I have the Apex base system, which is the energy bar, which has a bunch of outlets that you can control, and the brain module that's hooked up to 4 probes that are in my sump. Now, the 4 probes, if you get the full version, you've got temperature, pH, salinity, and ORP. ORP is a kind of a weird one. which we can go into more later,
Mm-hmm.
but it's an indicator of how healthy your water is. Like if your water is getting really polluted, then the ORP number is going to go down.
Mm.
So it's not actually measuring like nitrates and nitrites. It,
Okay.
it's it's a more technical voodoo science kind of a thing, but
Okay.
it is an indicator of the general like health of your water and its ability to process the waste.
Okay. And
All right.
go ahead. Actually, you go
Uh,
ahead.
so those are the first things.
Okay.
Now, in addition to those requirements, like I said, I have that wireless expansion module that controls my lights. Okay. And then the pumps that are in the display tank that are making that wave action like the reef, those are called wave pumps, WAV. And I have 4 of those pumps in the tank, and there's 2 little control boxes that they're plugged into that are then plugged into the Apex brain, and so that the Apex can control those and do all those little changes in the wave motion in the tank. And then I have, as we were talking about, I have the dose pumps. So my 2-part for the reef tank, calcium and alkalinity, are in 2 reservoirs that the dose pumps are siphoning out of and dumping into my sump periodically through the day to keep those up. And then I have the return pump that's going from the sump back into the display tank is also an Apex pump that is controlled through their control panel. So that really is the actual equipment that I have that is from Neptune Systems Apex.
Mm-hmm.
Everything else is bought from somewhere else. I mentioned I have a protein skimmer. It's a Reef Octopus protein skimmer. It's just plugged into an on-off outlet.
Mm-hmm.
I have a pellet reactor that it's also Reef Octopus. Again, it's just plugged in so that I can turn it on and off. The lights are controlled through the wireless module. Um, I actually am currently doing my water changes through somebody else's water change module
Hmm.
that's has nothing to do with the Apex one. And I'll be honest, a lot of the Apex equipment is really good stuff, but I heard a lot of problems
Hmm.
with their auto top off kit and went with something else. Now
Gotcha.
they've changed that. They've said that hey, they heard about the problems and they've released a second version and it's supposed to be better, but it just came out, so I'm not going to switch just yet.
Right. You wait until you hear some
Yeah,
reviews. I hear you. Now,
yeah,
so from what you've said so far, like obviously you have, quite a few components here, but just making sure I get you or I'm hearing
yeah,
you correctly. And again, we'll go to the website in a second.
yeah,
But so
yeah,
you can buy a base model, which is the brain or whatever, and
yes,
then you can then control like the pH. Well, if you get the 2 or 4 probe, that you can control based on what you buy. Um,
yeah,
and then
yeah,
is everything else separate purchases? Is that how it works? Or
yeah. Yes,
okay,
everything else after the base unit is an optional module that if you want that functionality, you buy that additional equipment and plug it in.
okay, and
And
go ahead.
sorry, and the nice thing about if it is a module that's made by them, it's made to be plug and play, just like plugging in a USB thing to your computer. Where if you're buying something from somebody else that's not specifically made for Apex, you may still be able to control it, but you may have to do a little more work to get it where you want.
Yeah.
An example of this is probably a lot of you are familiar with the name Tunzi,
Yes.
the German company that makes all the pumps and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
The Tunzi controllable wave making pumps, similar to the Apex waves, can be controlled by the Apex, but you have to set up a profile yourself,
Mm.
and you have to get a cable adapter to plug them in. So, depending on who made the thing and what the option is, it may be easier. It may be a little more tricky, but you don't have to do all that on day one. You can start with just the energy bar and the brain.
I mean, and that's great. One of the fears that I've had is that I would purchase something and then find out I've had this experience too many times, not with
Uh,
Apex, but with
yeah,
other things where I buy something like even Apple products and you find out,
yeah.
oh yeah, wait a minute, no, you've got to buy all this extra stuff to make it even work, or it doesn't do this unless you have this other thing. It is the Neptune's Apex system like that, or are you pretty much
But the
comfortable with buying it and knowing what you're buying?
yeah the um, I, I would say that the things that the base unit does out of the box, if that's all you want to do, then that's all you have to buy. Period.
Gotcha.
Now, what the base system is going to do for you out of the box is it's going to allow you to switch a set of outlets off and on, and it's going to monitor pH, temperature, and then if you buy the full version, the $850 version, will also monitor the salinity and the ORP. Now,
Okay.
monitoring those things doesn't actually control them; it just tells you what they're doing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, to have to be able to control pH. Well, how do you control pH without an Apex system? You have to add something to the water
Right.
to change the pH.
Right.
So the probe is going to tell you what the pH is, just like sticking a thermometer in your mouth is going to tell you what your temperature is.
Right.
But that thermometer isn't going to make you hotter or colder.
Right. No, that makes sense. So
Yeah,
if temperature is the main concern, you would need the base system with the pH probe. You could do extras, but you just need the pH and
yeah,
temperature
yeah.
probes, and then
If
you'd
you,
want to buy like the dosing system. Is that
yeah, yeah,
okay?
like if you just want to know what is my temperature, what is my pH, and let me turn some things off and on, then you could buy the Apex EL for like $650 plus taxes and shipping.
Sure. Sure.
Um, and that would allow you to control 8 outlets, which could be
That's
pump,
nice.
whatever, just on off, just like throwing a light switch. And it would allow you to monitor and see, the historic trend of what's been happening with those two measurements. Um, After that, it's what else do you want to do?
Right.
What's the other piece that's going to let you do that? Like you were asking about tanks, okay? They have a module that allows you to hook up an additional pH and temperature probe to your system.
Oh, cool.
So if let's say for example you have 2 tanks and you want to monitor those things on both of them and control the return pumps on both of them,
Right.
okay, then you'd start with the base system.
Mm-hmm.
You'd buy the additional expansion module and the probes for those 2 measurements, put them on the other tank. Now, there is a distance limit. There's a cable that you're going to run between your base unit and this other module that you plug in,
Mm-hmm.
but that distance is like 300 feet.
Okay.
So, if they're in the same room in your house, I don't think you're going to have a problem.
Right. Gotcha.
But there is an ultimate, because it is an electrical wiring bus, that has an ultimate limit, for voltage and such. Um, but then you could put those 2 probes in the other tank, and you could, run an extension cord or whatever, and hook up that other return pump to one of the outlets on your energy bar, and each outlet on your energy bar has basically an address. And so you would label that outlet like return number 2,
Mm-hmm.
you would label your pH and temperature like tank 2. And then when you would go to the website and look at it, you would see, okay, pH and temperature on tank 1 is this, pH and temperature on tank 2 is that.
Cool. I mean,
Return pump on and off,
yeah.
tank 1, tank 2.
That's really awesome. I just noticed a couple questions. Hi, Salty. Hi, Curtis. Hi, everybody joining. Okay, Ray is just full of excellent questions. Thank you, Ray. He asked, how often do the probes need to be recalibrated, and what does it take to do so?
Um, Apex recommends that you check the calibrations on your probes like every couple months or something.
Okay.
Um, uh, the calibration, they they have from them, and you can also get these same. Oh, excuse me. You can get calibration fluids from Apex, from Neptune Systems, or from other places,
Okay.
like the like Milwaukee pH probes.
Mm-hmm.
Same stuff to calibrate them. It's so you get a couple little foil packets of this liquid, that's your reference standard fluid. And what you do is you put these packets while they're still closed into your sump or display tank to let the fluid get to be the same temperature as your tank water.
Okay.
The pH pH measurements are affected by water temperature.
Right. Right.
So if you're using a calibration fluid that's a completely different temperature than the temperature probe in your tank has, then
Right.
your calibration is going to be off.
Right. Now,
So
is actually calibrating the probes, is that difficult though, or is it just like, okay, this is the number it needs to be at, so press these buttons and now it's at that? Is it
it
difficult?
usually, it usually goes fairly easily.
Okay.
Sometimes people do have a little bit of a problem. It can be a little bit finicky. Um, but it's more like just have patience, read the instructions, don't be in a rush, and you'll get it. Um, there's a couple things that can happen. For example, because these probes are measuring the water, and for example, the best example, if you have the salinity probe, the way that salinity is measured in water is by electrical conductivity. Well, if your sump has a pump or something with a short and you've got stray voltage in your sump, what's going to happen to your salinity probe?
Right.
It's going to go nuts.
Yeah. Well, I mean, hey, that's another indication we'd want to know about, though. I mean, that's,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know,
yeah,
uh,
yeah. That's the thing. If all of a sudden it says your salinity has gone ballistic, okay, let's start unplugging some things and see
I
if
mean,
it goes back to normal.
right. Just a quick question along those lines,
Yeah,
because I do see all of your questions, guys. I will ask them in
yeah.
just a second. But have you personally ever had a situation where the monitoring system was telling you that the temperature, pH, whatever was this, and you found out it was not? Has it ever been inaccurate, or is it pretty right
I,
on?
I have not had a problem like that so far.
Okay.
There have been some occasional things, and like I said, for example, the stray electricity,
Right.
throwing something off. A few people have had issues, and I don't remember which probe it is, but one of the probes in the full set is more sensitive to like radio frequency interference than the others. And if you have like a certain kind of like electrical wires, going alongside that probe wire, it can influence it. There's a few things like that pop up from time to time, but in general, I would say it's pretty good. Honestly, now they recommend that you recalibrate these things periodically. Honestly, I haven't.
Really?
The only time I saw a problem, I just went and pulled out the probes and grabbed a toothbrush and scrubbed them and then rinsed them around in the tank water and put them back in, and everything went back to normal.
I was gonna ask, is there ever any issues with salt, buildup or coralline or any of that?
Um, well, there's the probes are submerged in the water,
Right.
so there's not like salt creep because they're in the water, they're in the solution.
Right. I'm just
But
thinking of like
yeah, yeah,
on
no,
the
no,
corn.
that's the thing. If like in my case, they're in my sump, so there's no coralline algae.
Right.
But
Right.
the other little stuff from little snails and pods and whatever that try to build up little calcareous deposits
Yes.
can get on there, and that's where I was saying about using the toothbrush to just clear out the junk and get the liquid flowing again, without getting stuck up. Also, air bubbles. If you have a drastic water change or something, and you get air bubbles up in the shaft of those probes, that can throw them off. And again, you just swish them around to get the air bubbles out, and things go back to normal.
And in each of these cases, something would happen, like the readings would go crazy, or something would happen, so
Yeah,
that you would know there was a problem.
yeah. You start
Okay.
seeing your salinities going up or down, but then you take like your I'm forgetting right now. I have one of those salinity deals where you put a drop of water on the little glass and you push the button and it reads it.
Oh yeah.
And
Very cool.
so I just so when my salinity started looking weird, and I knew I'd done a water change and that it should be right, then I just went and grabbed that and cross-checked what did that read versus what the apex was saying. I
Gotcha.
saw that they were not agreeing with each other, and I said, okay, let me take a look at these probes, toothbrush them, swish, boom, back to normal.
Right. So it's not a replacement for testing. You still need to test, and it doesn't
Yeah,
cover everything, but it's just, if you can afford it, or if you want complete control over knowing what's going on in your system, and then additionally controlling what's going on in your system, this sounds like a really cool thing. I want to ask some of the guest comments, or some of
yeah,
your comments, but I have a couple more of my own, but
yeah.
let's see. Holly wants to know what's in your tank. Hi, Harkins. Hi, everybody.
Just in general, what's in my tank?
Yeah, like
Um,
what coral,
yeah.
what fish, what do we got going on?
Well, first off, I live in Plant City, Florida, which is near Tampa.
Okay.
So the rock and the sand that are in there actually came from out in the Gulf of Mexico.
Oh, wow.
There's a local company that has an aquaculture permit, and I acquired those through them. So that's the first thing. The foundation of my tank is actually a slice of the Gulf of Mexico, and that seeded this tank with little amphipods and isopods
Right.
and algae and coralline and sponge and stuff that came right out of the Gulf. So that's kind of my foundation.
Which is awesome, but you guys, any Seahorse folks out there, he did find mantis shrimp. Okay, so
Yeah, yeah. This is a
anyhow,
reef. Yeah, this is a reef tank.
right.
Um, and even with the reef tank, when I first acquired this stuff, I spent a good amount of time finding various crabs that I didn't want in there and removing them. I mean, that's the trade-off. It's like, okay, if you go get this stuff fresh out of the Gulf of Mexico, you're going to have wonderful biodiversity, maybe a little too wonderful.
Right. It's a give take.
And
I
you need
agree.
to know that when you started up, like if I was doing this for seahorses,
Yeah.
I would not have nearly as much rock.
Hmm.
I would mostly just have the sand, which would have a lot less of the potential for the crabs and things. And then I would spend a few months letting it cycle and checking for the things that I wouldn't want the seahorses to get exposed to before I would, progress to putting in the more delicate livestock. I would just let it cycle and observe it and double check.
Yeah.
Because, yes, you will have gorilla crabs, blue crabs, stone crabs, mantis shrimp, and potentially a few other creatures that may show up in that rock. Now, sometimes it's actually a good thing.
Right. No doubt.
Because, for example, in the Gulf here, there's a small goby that appears in this rock from time to time as a hitchhiker.
How
It's
cool.
called the tiger goby. And it is so small that I don't think it could ever bother any seahorse.
Hmm.
The tiger goby is only like 1 inch long
Wow.
at maximum.
The
It's something you could put in a 3-gallon nanocube.
That's awesome. The other Ray, I'll say it before you do. The other consideration also is just when you're dealing with captive bred seahorses, if you do have any fish type hitchhikers, then you're dealing with that mixing, which could cause a problem. But let's just say there's give and take. It's based on your risk tolerance, what your goal is, what your needs are. There's
Yeah,
no wrong answer. So I didn't mean to interrupt you. What else is in the tank?
no problem. No problem. So that's the rock and sand. Now the other stuff that's in here. First off, there's and you may be able to see them in the live stream. Roaming around in the front there, I've got 2 nice big coral-banded shrimp that are looking around. A lot of the fish right now are in hiding because they're figuring it's time to go to bed.
Right.
But there's a yellow tang. There's 7 royal grammas. There's 3 chalk basiletes. There's 3 pearly jawfish. There's a bicolor angel, and there's a coral beauty.
That's awesome.
And there's a couple of lawnmower blennies.
Nice. Now, and do you? I can see coral. I can see some stuff. Is your passion in the reef tank? Is it more coral or fish
Um,
or both?
Actually, it's to me, it's the reef. It's the
Gotcha.
whole community. So,
I like that.
For example, there's also in here, like I was mentioning, the bigger players, but there's a whole bunch of very small hermit crabs in here.
Hmm.
There's several types of snails that are in here. There's a couple of serpent stars in there. And there's either a mantis or a pistol shrimp in there somewhere. I hear him click every once in a while.
Right.
But he's not eating any of my fish, So and by the way, this is one thing, mantis shrimp, everybody has this thing about like mantis shrimp, they'll eat everything. Well, what I found is that Gulf mantis shrimp are a lot less predatory. I think the Pacific Ocean mantis shrimp get bigger and go after more stuff. And the Gulf ones, they don't get as big. And yeah, they will predate on some stuff, but not as bad as those Pacific ones.
Gotcha.
I've had mantis shrimp in my reef tanks over the years, and I've maybe lost like 2 fish.
Wow.
You
Well,
know?
and I want to say really quick, good night, Ray. It's cool. We can always talk later too. I do want to get some more questions about the control system. But Holly, if you had any further questions about what's in his tank, obviously it's amazing. And they're all commenting and asking which if the rock was let's see, Walt Smith or Pukani, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, and they wanted to know if it was, let's see, the name Tampa Bay Saltwater. Was that the name of the company?
Tampa Bay saltwater.
Okay,
Tampa Bay saltwater.
and
Barbara,
Holly mentioned that she got a lot of really cool rock from them that had a lot of cool sponges and such. What were you gonna say?
yeah, sponges, tunicates, clams, uh, uh, um, barnacles, sea anemones, all kind of gorgonians.
Mm-hmm.
There's a real common Gulf gorgonian that's easy as heck to frag, and if you get a couple pieces of it from them, you can have a whole tank full of nothing but gorgonian.
I mean, that's what I'm talking about right there. But yeah, it is tough, you know. Absolutely beautiful display. Actually, before I say anything else, what was the size of it? The tank of your tank?
This is 6 foot long, and it's approximately 150 gallons water volume. Of course, the rock and the sand take away from that a little bit, but
Sure.
the total volume is 150 gallons, 6 foot long tank.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. You've done a very nice. I really like the aquascape too. It's very pretty. Um, And let's see. And so just a quick rundown, and then we'll get back to the control system. But a quick rundown, which has to do with the control system. You were showing me last week, and part of the question about what's in the tank. So you have the three lights, you have the Apex control system, then you have the
Uh,
dosing pump, and
uh,
did you say octopus skimmer?
yeah, the skimmer is reef octopus.
Okay. And what's that?
It's like the
Go ahead.
sorry.
Oh, I just said go
I
ahead.
was yeah. I believe it's their INT 200 model. It's been years since I bought it, so I'm not
Gotcha.
100% sure which model it is, but it's a fair size skimmer. Um, I have a bioreactor thing that has some of the Dr. Tim's pellets.
Ooh.
It's supposed to help with the nitrite stuff.
Oh yeah.
Something actually, just as a brief aside, something that might be of interest for the Seahorse stuff. Something which I had years ago, and I'm thinking about getting another one of, is there's a sulfur nitrate reactor that you can do where you have sulfur granules in a media reactor, and it creates an anoxic zone that will breed the denitrifying bacteria.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always heard real good successes with those. And I'm thinking with the seahorse and the problems of how they pollute the water,
Yes.
that one of those reactors might actually be really helpful in keeping the water quality for a seahorse tank better.
I had Matt on this channel once who shared his amazing reef tank, and he had a denitrifier. It wasn't that exact system by all means. He made his own, I believe, but
Yeah,
the idea is a good one for sure. Um,
yeah. There's several ways that people do them, but the one that I'm familiar with, it uses sulfur to create the oxygen starved area for the bacteria to colonize. But that's something we can go into another time. But
oh yeah,
just
no big deal.
real quick.
Yeah, no
Uh,
big deal. And
yeah,
if anybody has any thoughts about that, go ahead with what you were going to say. I didn't mean
yeah.
to interrupt you. Go ahead.
So I was saying, I had that skimmer, the media reactor for the other type of nitrifying action. Um, the wave pumps, the lights, um, uh, the dose system that doses my two-part calcium and alkalinity. Um, that's I think that's pretty much it. I've got a couple reservoirs for water. I've got a RODI thing out there to make up new water when I need it.
When he gave me the walkthrough, you guys, and showed me his tank area, maintenance area type situation, it's really impressive. I love seeing the brute tubs with the water and all that preparation. It's really great. And so back to the monitoring system. Do you want to try to share the website and show us like what you purchased and what someone could purchase for different things, or do you want to wait on that? Or do you think you're able to do that? Oh no, did I lose him? Oh no. Oh, okay. All right, guys. Well, I think we ran into this right before we started, actually, where um, Denny is actually a software developer type guy. And so he was messing with some different things and was having some issues right before we started as far as his connection. So I'll tell you what I'm gonna do, uh, because we can always have Denny back. Hopefully he'll jump back in a second. But if he does not, then we can always have him back. And with a little more preparation on my end, I had a volleyball game, guys, so he was waiting on me, just to be clear. But we can maybe get him back in here, and he can. I really was hoping he'd do the walkthrough anyways, because his setup and the way he's got all of the Apex connections going is really cool. But anyway, so I'm going to put up a link, guys, if anybody wants to join really quickly, and then we'll kind of stall and chat and see if Denny's able to jump back into the Hangout. And, I might even try to share, if he joins in the comments, maybe I'll try to share the Neptune Apex website and see, if we can figure out, because, again, my biggest thing was, I think it's really cool to be able to monitor your system. That's really crucially important these days. And to be able to actually change things when you're on vacation is even cooler. But I don't want to buy a bunch of stuff that I don't really need. I was absolutely not even going to attempt to try any of these monitoring systems until I learned that you can monitor multiple, because as someone with multiple tanks, it's got to do more than one. And so, learning these things as I go, obviously a lot of you know way more about these kind of control systems than I do, but I just thought it was a really interesting subject, because I still have questions like, why is this system better than some of the cheaper ones? Is this quality over quantity, or is this, brand name kind of thing? So, hopefully he'll jump back in and tell us, give me your thoughts, and let me get this link up in case anybody does want to join. And we can always have Denny back again, of course, as I said. All right, let's see if I can throw you guys a link here. Getting there. And yeah, guys, let me know how you're doing in the comment section and what's going on with you. And if you have a monitoring system, whether it be Apex or not, what are your thoughts? What's worked for you? Any pluses or minuses that we need to add to the old poll or system as where we check these things, because it's a big expense. Is it worth it? I'm absolutely sure that it is. But I just like to hear more from you guys and from normal people, that are telling me, yes, it works for this reason. You really need it because it does this or whatever. So that's what I was hoping to get out of tonight, and hopefully he can jump back in here. But let me put up this link. Maybe. Let's just do it this way. All right. Technology is so fun, is it not? I just absolutely love when, we can't get this stupid thing to work. All right, here we go.
Yeah,
Oh,
my network decided to mess with me again, so I'm just rejoining from my phone this time, and
all
I'm going to
good.
let the other stuff sit.
All good.
um, let's, since I'm on my phone now, um, I'll go ahead and just walk back to the equipment side real quick, like we were talking about earlier.
Yeah, great.
And so this is in my garage, and let's see. I'm trying to see.
Turn us around.
There we go.
Okay.
So, um, go through my kitchen and laundry area into my garage. The wall that you're seeing up here is the wall where the tank is. So the tank is on the other side of this wall.
Hmm.
And in fact, there's a little hole going through where I could run a cable.
Love it. Love it.
So I'm going to step back where we can get kind of a full length. So up on the wall is all the control equipment. And that orange and silver color is identifying the things that are made by Neptune Systems.
Okay.
And then over here is my RODI plant.
Mm-hmm.
First tub is fresh water, second tub is salt water. This is the dosing pumps.
Okay.
And you've probably seen other dosing pumps. Same idea. It rubs a little gear across a hose, and that is what lets it pump stuff without shredding it.
And
Um,
really quickly, how is it like are you able to show how it's actually hooked up? Like what's on one side, what's on the other? Or if it's too difficult,
yeah,
don't worry about it.
no, it's well. There's four hoses.
Right?
Two hoses are coming from the source, and two are going into the sump.
Okay.
So down here, you can see I've got two reservoirs of liquid. That's my calcium and alkalinity two-part solution, which I need to top off pretty soon.
Mm-hmm.
And you can see there's two hoses.
Gotcha.
So when the pump runs, it draws from whichever reservoir, whichever pump is turned on, goes up through here. And then there's some more hoses that wind up going into the sump.
Very cool. Okay, go on. I just thought I'd ask. Go
So,
ahead.
yeah, no problem. And so this is the Apex brain.
The
That's
brain.
where the actual computer is. And then this is the energy bar. And you can see that I'm only using three of my outlets. I could plug in a bunch more stuff if I needed to. And this is one of the optional modules. And you can see that says WXM. So that's the wireless control for the Radeon stuff.
And
For
is
the
that
Ecotech wireless.
okay, really quickly, let me just I'm sorry to interrupt and ask you. So that
Yeah.
is the piece that allows you to hook up things that are not Apex, or that is the Wi-Fi piece?
Well, this allows me to hook up the stuff that's made by Ecotech that uses their wireless protocol.
Okay.
It's not standard Wi-Fi. It's something that Ecotech hooked up and Neptune was able to latch onto.
Gotcha.
So this will control Ecotech pumps and lights
Gotcha.
through a wireless interface. Now the energy bar powers the brain, and then the connection for the control between this energy bar and this brain are these cables that look just like USB. And it actually is the same as a standard USB cable, but the voltage and signal are different. So as you have different modules, you'll see like this module has a cable that's going over, and they just all kind of daisy chain together.
Yes.
And that's where that 300-foot limit on the length comes to play. Then it drops down here, and then I said that I have a return pump that's Apex. That's the control module for that return pump. And that return pump is that orange and silver pump down in my sump.
Gotcha.
And so there's a signal going from that pump to this right here and then to the brain so that I can turn the pump higher or lower or turn it off or on. That pump is speed controllable. So if you wanted like a lower flow for your Seahorse tank,
Mm-hmm.
you could use that pump and then adjust the flow rate to be just what you needed and not too much.
Nice.
Yeah. And I was saying that my skimmer is not made by them. So there's the control module for the Reef Octopus skimmer. And all I have plugged in to the Apex is just the on-off power. And I don't try to there's a speed control for this skimmer pump. I don't worry about controlling that with the Apex. Oh, and I said that my auto top off is somebody else's company called Auto Aqua. And that is a nice little unit. I like it. It has nothing to do with Neptune systems or Apex, but it will top off fresh water or do water changes.
Wow.
And you can find that on like Bulk Reef Supply. And it's got a couple cables that run around and do that for me. And it lit up just now because it just added a little fresh water to top off for evaporation.
Wow.
While we were talking.
Yeah, that is so cool.
That's my skimmer, which right now I need to empty that skimmate. A lot of nice, goopy, nasty junk.
Hey, it's better in there than in your tank, right? Come on.
Yeah. And let's see. Is he hiding or is he showing up?
Yeah, the crab was hanging out last time.
There's a crab that hides out in here, but right now he's hidden. He's not showing off.
Just an FYI, I did see your comment, Dan. I'm sending the link in case you want to jump in. And you know what I really wish you could show us? I know you weren't quite finished. I'm sorry. I'll let you continue.
Yeah.
But what I really wish you could show us is the like what you see when you look at your graphs and charts and what you see and how it's controlled. I wish there was some way to share that.
Let me see if my network is
Working?
cooperating again.
Sure.
And if it is, we can do that. Otherwise, and it looks like okay. Now.
Hey, you know what? You could even use. Okay, sorry. You could even use your phone to show your laptop. But however you want to do it, it's cool.
Well, actually, the Join Hangout is back on my laptop.
Cool.
So I want to keep from having the audio problem that we had before.
Yeah, no stringy craziness.
So yeah, hang on just a minute, and I think we can. Okay, let's see. I'm gonna hang up my phone and join on my PC. Give it just a sec.
Sure. And Dan, I am actually sending your link in case you do feel like jumping in for a sec. We can chat Seahorse while we're waiting or whatever. But there you go. There's that.
So before anything else happens.
Yes. Let's see how sharing works. We're testing some stuff, guys.
Okay. So are you seeing my screen now? Or do I need to do something else? Let's see. Oh, okay. Your entire screen.
Yeah, you have to click and choose which one you want to share.
Yeah. Okay. So everybody can see my screen. I hope this.
There we go.
So, boom.
Wow. Okay, explain what we're looking at.
Yeah, hang on just a second.
Okay. Sorry.
So right now, this is in a particular part of my system. I'm going to go to the main dashboard because that's where the fun really starts.
Very cool.
So this is the dashboard, and this is because I've got a lot of different pieces. I've got a lot of buttons. By default, all you would have are just these right here.
Okay.
Okay. So if you just had the basic system, for example, if you bought the Apex EL, you would have one temperature and one pH, and you
Okay.
wouldn't really have all that other stuff.
Yeah, because this is kind of scary looking, but I know
Yeah.
you're going to tell us. Go ahead.
Um, the starting point, I'm going to resize this to try and make it a little easier to see exactly which pieces I'm referring to.
Okay.
So out of the box, if you bought the EL, you would have
Oh no. Oh, technology. Dan, are you in here?
I am.
Hi, Dan. How are you? We're,
Hello.
we're having technology issues, and for once, it's not on my end. Go figure.
Stuff happens.
Have you ever used a monitoring system?
No, I would have loved to have had one. The problem is all the independent systems a cost.
Yeah.
And if I'd ever done it the way I ultimately intended of doing it and having one very large system with a super sump sterilization and all the other stuff, yeah, then I would have wanted one. But it's, when you've got 35 different systems, it's hard to justify the cost of running a monitor on each one.
Right. I mean, Denny was trying really hard to explain, and he kept getting cut off and whatever. But what I understood, and hopefully he'll jump back in. Denny, if you see this, feel free to jump back in, please, or answer in the comments. But I think that even though it would work for multiple systems, you have to buy the parts for each system, right? I mean,
Right.
is that what you were
Exactly.
gathering? Okay.
Yeah, you got to have a probe or whatever probes are necessary for each reading
Yeah.
for each system.
I mean,
I've looked at systems and they never had one that really fulfilled what I wanted. And
what would you want?
well, I'd want to be able to constantly see the ammonia level. The salinity is easy. The O2 saturation is easy. The pH is easy. But you also have to remember with probes comes a certain amount of maintenance and replacements and stuff. And
Yeah.
talking with the guys at the USDA, you know, it I never really saw the cost benefit from it,
Mm.
um, especially what we were doing. We bring a system up, we use it for 3 or 4 months, we take it down, sterilize it, and start it again. And we go by our main primary monitoring is observation, not what an instrument is telling us.
Right.
The when we see something wrong, then we do the testing. But other than pH, we didn't do routine testing. Well, pH and salinity. But other than that, unless there was a problem, we weren't constant testing unless there was an anticipated issue.
Gotcha.
okay, folks. My network decided to cooperate again. I'm back.
Yay. All right, hang on, Dan, because I would love to at
Yep,
least.
no problem.
No, I mean, I want to hear more about your opinions for sure, and your thoughts on these. And one of my big questions for the ending was what makes this particular system better than some of the least expensive ones, et cetera. But first, I want to see how it works, because I do think
Yeah,
it's
let
really
me.
cool looking. Go
Yeah,
ahead,
I'm
Denny.
gonna try and jump back into what I was showing you on the screen
Please do.
and see if we can kind of get to a little bit more of the information.
Yes, feel free.
Okay, let's. Uh, okay, so are we still here?
Yes.
Okay, so the last things I was saying is this energy bar thing. It'll also.
Oh my goodness. Poor Denny. He's trying so hard. Oh no. Well,
Oops.
I know it's been. I mean, literally, we were getting ready to start, and he's very so good with computers. He's just messed with the configuration, and now it's not working. If you jump back in, we'll shut up and let you show us again, Denny. But I don't know. I don't know because the reason that I've been so interested in these control systems, and I did actually do a testing of a much uh, less expensive one that was just focused on temperature. and it had faults too. But the bottom line is, it really would be good for someone as far as vacationing. I just really think that it would be huge. You know, like my
Well,
seahorses would have been saved had I known that there was problems.
well, every situation is a little bit unique.
Sure.
When I talk with the guys at the USDA, when they're doing their research on, they're doing food fish and they're doing research stuff, and they the numbers they have to be at are in fractions of where most of us have to be somewhere close.
Hmm.
And as a breeder, with what I was doing, what would have been more useful than any of this stuff would have probably have been a video or a camera on each tank. If
Right.
I could look at each tank individually and see what's going on. But, being here all day long when we were, fully active, you know, there again, that really wasn't necessary. It was your observation skills and recognizing stuff. Um, and when you recognize something is off, then you go to test mode to see, rule out different things. But um, if I had a very large system, I would have looked to have put something on it so that I could constantly monitor it that way. But it just would not have been cost effective with too many systems.
Sure. I can imagine, like, I'm talking about 5 or 6. You're talking about a lot bigger and a lot more. So, big difference. But, I'm curious to those of you in the comment section. How many of you do have a monitoring system on your tanks, etc.?
Well, sorry about this.
No, that's
Um,
okay.
well, I'm just going to finish on my phone because apparently my network is just getting flakier by the minute.
Understood. No
Um,
worries. Go ahead, Denny.
yeah, let me just find the thing to switch. And let's see if I can even get. So what I was saying a few minutes ago, you can monitor the electricity usage and you can even have it calculate that. And if my network is going to cooperate, um, eh, well,
Don't be too frustrated. We go
yeah,
through technical
well,
difficulties on this channel
yeah.
all the
Um,
time.
but bottom line is, um, if that website was working, in addition to those little tiles
Hmm.
that I was showing you, you can click on those and get a larger view of that same data.
Okay.
And so you can view like a week's worth of your temperatures, your pH, etc.
Now that would
And you could,
be extremely valuable for someone newer or someone trying to monitor. I mean, that's one thing as Dan and I were
yeah,
chatting we didn't really discuss is, the fact that you
yeah,
can look at trends and stuff. I mean, people can write them
yeah.
down, but to have it actually done for you would be really beneficial.
And something that I'm going to look at later on,
Mhm.
that data is stored inside my Apex controller and it's stored for more than a week.
Wow.
There
That's
is a way to pull that data out of that Apex and convert it, and then you could like load it into Excel
Oh, that'd be really cool.
and do even and do even more than a 1 week graph if you wanted to.
Very nice.
So that's another thing that, again, this is like going into the little more advanced things,
Sure.
but it's possible.
Now,
Um,
why do you think that this particular system is worth the cost versus some of the less expensive ones? Is this like just because it's so well known or because it doesn't fail as often or what's your thoughts?
I would say kind of a combination of those kinds of things that you're talking about.
Okay.
Um, I like the fact that there's a lot of people with aquariums using this. And so, for example, there's a Facebook group for the Apex system, and you can join that group and go in there and ask them questions. And you're going to get lots of answers because there's lots of people that have the same system. Um, I would say that overall, the quality of what they're doing is pretty darn good. And so that's one of the things. Also, the fact that they've got so many of the basic things tied together in one system, so that you don't have to go to 3 or 4 different things to see this. It's all right there.
Yeah.
So the general quality, the market share, and the integration are really the 3 biggest things that I look at. And between the dosing and the monitoring, the amount of time that I spend on this tank per week is like a few hours, like maybe 3 hours a week or something.
Right. I mean,
Um,
that's a huge benefit.
yeah. Um, the they've done what they can to cooperate with bringing in other devices. That's something where it's like everybody all these companies want to protect their income, and so there's I think between the different companies like Ecotech versus Neptune versus the folks that make the reef octopus, there's a little bit of well, I'll build my controller and it'll be better for my equipment, and you don't need their controller.
Right.
And which I think actually is a disservice to the community.
I would have to agree.
They should all just get together and share some common protocols and make it easier to mix and match the equipment. That
Gotcha.
would be my take.
I think Harkins,
Uh,
were you able to join? Sorry,
Yeah, I got it.
I didn't mean to put it on you. When you're ready, after Denny's done talking, I'd love to hear your take. I know you mentioned another system that actually monitors ammonia. Denny, does the Apex have any capabilities of monitoring ammonia, or is that not something they do yet?
um, they don't have anything right now that does that.
Okay.
I'm sure that just like the pH probe is a standard lab probe that you put in the water. If there's a lab probe that monitors ammonia in water, you could probably buy one of their probe expansion modules, plug that probe in, and do some programming in the Apex system to make that happen.
Gotcha.
But I think I think honestly they didn't look at that as critical for most people, because usually for like reef tanks and fish tanks, the ammonia typically is not a problem after you initially cycle the tank.
Right. This is for
Um,
more. This is more for once you're past. Like this is
yeah,
for reef keepers or seahorse keepers or whatever that are dedicated to it, and actually going to care and continue their tank, right?
yeah,
Versus
yeah. Well,
cycling.
it's just that typically uh, like there's 2 times when I've seen ammonia be present in a reef tank.
Hmm.
That's either when you first set it up and there's no biology going on to process stuff, or if you have a major, if your tank is just completely nuked.
I don't know,
You'll
man.
see ammonia.
I've had slight ammonia readings in many tanks many times. So,
And,
go ahead.
and what and has that been in your seahorse stuff or in a reef tank?
Both. Dan, do you want to weigh in really quick
I
on
do.
ammonia? Go ahead.
Well, I have a couple of questions.
Yes.
It's one thing for a reef tank. For a seahorse breeder, per se, is a little bit different, because as a breeder, you're starting up new systems that are going to be changing over time with the amount of feed that's going in. They're going to be overstocked, overfed, and that's where the ammonia becomes more critical.
Uh-huh.
Once you have a in a reef keeping world, once you have a
Yeah.
tank set up and stabilized, you're pretty much golden for a while. A standard
Right.
seahorse tank would be the same way, but
Uh,
when you're growing fish,
yeah.
whether it's seahorses or whether it's some other species of many other different species, you have a constantly changing environment as your
Right.
animals
Right.
grow, the amount of feed that
Yeah.
goes in.
Yeah. And
And
that's part of where I'm trying to learn more before I set up anything with seahorses. I'm starting to study these issues because I see that it is a little different.
Sure.
Yeah.
Um,
The probe that would have been most valuable to me, well, two probes that would have been valuable to me if I had the monitoring capability. One would have been the ORP, which I know those exist, but the
Yeah.
other, the one that would be most critical would be some way of monitoring the actual amount of organics in the system, which I don't know of anybody that can make a probe that does that. But when you're trying to look at dissolved and non-dissolved
Yeah.
organics, in a seahorse tank, especially as a breeder, it's overpopulated, that
Right.
becomes a huge issue. The
Yeah.
question
Yeah.
I have though is that in watching, I came in late, so my apologies, but
No problem.
the average person that sets up a tank that has average skills, that's not really a computer expert, that
Uh-huh.
maybe has a computer and maybe knows how to use a little bit of it, how hard is a system like this to put into play for somebody who doesn't have a lot of technical skills with computers?
I would say if you can use your web browser and read instructions, and you're willing to be patient and follow those instructions, that the biggest hurdle you will have in setting this up initially is just that initial calibration of the salinity and pH probes.
Yep.
And that really is not a huge issue, but it can be a little difficult for some people and super easy for some people. One Other than that, the rest of it is just plug it in, turn it on. Are you able to hook it up to your Wi-Fi? um, and that's it. You know, so out of the box, just the basic stuff. I would say it's pretty easy.
Okay.
Um,
And your assessment from a cost benefit analysis, I have no idea how much the systems cost. I know that when I looked into them, in my situation, I was talking to Kelly while you were offline.
yes,
I had 35 systems to monitor, and when I
tanks. You're
looked,
talking about like,
well, individual systems,
uh huh,
each tank was set up as an independent type setup,
uh
and that was done so that if something went wrong, I didn't take the whole system down. I could
right,
isolate problems.
yeah,
And
yeah,
when I looked at it from a commercial standpoint, the cost benefit ratio of putting a system in play, it just didn't come out to where it was beneficial. Different story when you've got, a reef tank that, 150,
yeah,
200 gallons, and
yeah.
you've got thousands of dollars in it.
Yeah.
When you look at the cost benefit to that, does it become really a worthwhile thing?
Well, I mean, I think that it's worth it, but I'm definitely not chasing the dollars. In this, I'm more looking at, hey, I can be out of town for a week and I can see what's happening,
Right.
and I've got a lot of comfort with the reliability, and that it's a long-term thing, and it's going to continue to be there and be supported and be working. Um, for the kind of thing that you're describing, um, uh, what would, like, for your 35 systems, you would want like temperature and pH for each one?
Well, what I
And
would have been interested in if I would have had a system, what I would have wanted would have
yeah,
been ammonia,
right,
pH,
yeah,
which is difficult at the time that I was looking at them back in
uh-huh,
mid 2005 2006.
uh-huh,
Nobody had the ability to electronically monitor ammonia.
right,
Uh,
right.
so ammonia would be at the
But
top of my list.
yeah,
pH, salinity, those are important, but I would probably say ORP would be more important in those two.
right,
And
right,
as I said, the other thing that nobody has would be the organics.
right.
But you can derive part of that from the ORP.
Yeah.
Right.
Someone in the
Yeah,
comments said that.
and I was actually thinking about that myself.
I think you
So
said something. I
it
think,
sounds like you kind of understand a little bit about what ORP is then, huh?
yeah,
Yeah, I mean it's pretty complex, and there's differing opinions on ORP, but I, you know the thing is that when you get a clue to it and when you
Yeah,
start delving into
yeah,
it deeper, it can get very, very complex. But
yeah.
it's a factor when it comes to raising seahorses.
Right, right. Um, so let's say, for example, if I was running these 35 separate systems, um, now as I was mentioning,
Can I have a little stuff, please?
Sorry.
Oh,
Someone,
never mind. All right.
nothing. Go ahead, Harkins. I'm glad you're still here, though. I want to hear about the other one. Go ahead, Denny.
Yeah. Um, so um, uh, there is the Aquabus cable. There is an ultimate length limit, and there is an ultimate device limit on how many devices you can daisy chain.
Right.
So I don't know where in those 35 tanks whether you would hit that either of those limits. That's something you'd have to kind of examine and figure out. But let's say for some number in that range, you
So
could
the
probably purchase just one Apex head end brain unit for your primary setup, and then um, for each additional system that you wanted independent probes measuring the parameters, you would obviously need to buy the probes to go in each tank and the expansion module to send the readings from that probe back to the brain. That would be an incremental cost. I don't know offhand. You can look on the Neptune system site, and they do sell replacement probes,
Sure.
so you could see what's their cost for each one of their probes. Um,
so the module limit is 48 modules to one brain.
uh-huh.
Oh
I can
wow,
tell you that.
Harkins,
So
do you have some experience with doing multiple systems like that?
so I have an entire system. Well, it's an entire house where we have 2 fish onlys, a reef, and a pond, and I actually have the apex on the monitoring the pond as well.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
So
But
this is like what I was saying earlier, that you can get pretty flexible with this and hook up a bunch of modules. It's just a matter of spending the time to learn how to hook them up and do the appropriate programming if you're automating things with them.
I guess the biggest area for Dan though is if Dan wants to measure our ORP, the ORP probe is like $600.
right,
Uh-huh.
I was gonna
Well,
ask you.
wait a minute.
Or
That
is that the
doesn't make sense
dissolve
because
oxygen probe?
I think you're probably thinking of dissolved oxygen because the cost for the Apex 2016 base package that includes the ORP probe, the cost of that whole package is only $850,
Maybe
and
that's
that's
the
including
dissolved
an ORP
oxygen
probe.
probe.
Huh?
Yeah, he
It
said
must be
maybe.
the dissolved oxygen probe.
Yeah, that's a different probe.
Let me ask you, Harkins, very quickly. In a situation where you're monitoring so many systems, because everyone's not a breeder. So one of the reasons I wanted to do this talk is to find out personally for me what I would have to buy to just monitor things while I was on vacation. We will get to that, folks, at the end. I'll go to
Yeah.
the website and look at that. But Harkins, in your opinion, is this beneficial? Like as far as Dan was asking, based on the cost.
So when you're running multiple systems, they haven't really tabbed it out to make it easy on that orange home screen where like you can separate the tanks.
Right.
Mm.
Yeah.
That is the hard part when running multiple systems, because you would just basically be able to scroll down and see all this information for the individual data set.
Gotcha.
You can kind of reorganize those.
Yeah.
Can
You
you
gotta know what you're looking for.
Can you like search for temperatures and see all the temperatures?
Like you could set those at the very top and you could just name them like tank 1 temp, tank 2 temp,
Okay.
seahorse tank, reef tank. So like For me, I've never set anything up over 5, which is that house I was just talking to you about, where I have 2 fish onlys,
Yeah.
the pond and the reef, and then the QT system. So
Yeah, I mean, if I was doing this commercially with 35 tanks or 35 systems, what I might do is I might say put 10 of them on one apex and 10 of them on another apex and 10 of them on another apex just to help segregate them out.
Yeah.
Well,
Well, the
without.
reason the
Go
reason
ahead, Dan.
the reason that I'm asking the question is not so much for my own benefit, but I'm
Uh,
thinking of the audience where we have
yeah,
a lot of seahorse breeders want to become, or a lot of seahorse people want to become breeders.
Right.
And
uh,
what happens with many people in the seahorse world is they start with one pair of seahorses. Next thing you know, they have 4 or 5 tanks. And if they're considering putting this in play, I'm
yeah,
just looking at what's involved when you start adding, multipliers to it.
That's what I was
yeah.
gonna.
Um,
I was gonna very quickly ask Harkins. I don't expect you to give a number here, but did it get quite expensive to monitor 5 different different systems?
oh, absolutely, yeah. I mean, and they have a cable that you need to run to each tank,
So
which
you
is
got
it's
cables going everywhere.
and they sell it in
Are you,
30-foot sections. So
now you're talking about the Aquabus cable, right?
yes, which is
Okay,
actually a USB cable, but it runs different voltage and
yeah. Now here's the thing. You don't have to buy their cable. Okay. You can go to Amazon and buy a USB cable that will work just fine.
and I won't
And
disagree with you, but
yeah,
when I go to them and I need support on the system, they're gonna go, "Are
Right.
you using our Aquabus cable?" And it's easier for me just to say yes than not have that headache.
and I get you on that. Um, but
Um,
here's the thing, though. If you actually check, like if you go on to the Apex forums or the Apex Facebook group, there will be
oh,
people from Neptune who will say, as long as it's a standard USB cable that doesn't have any special, because there's some that have like a signal booster or something, and it's like as long as it doesn't have that, it's fine.
and I agree, but I'm just saying for my support side,
Yeah,
when I'm going to Apex and asking for that support or help, like
yeah.
those are things they'll ask, and it's
I'm
just like
I'm running
less of a
into this.
headache for me.
I'm running into the same crap with my buying Apple products. They don't want to help you if you've done anything to upgrade them. Hey Harkins, I wanted to ask really quickly before we get too detailed into a conversation. You mentioned, am I pronouncing it correctly? Senye? How's it pronounced?
Sinai.
Senai. Thank you. Okay.
So
Yes.
that Sinai is probably closer to what the Seahorse people really want, to
Okay.
be honest.
Can you tell me why?
So I'll start off. If you're into coral at all, it is a par meter. First off,
Okay.
B, it is a multimeter. It measures temperature, pH, and ammonia and salinity, which are kind of the most important ones for most seahorse people. And at a cost of about $199 for the core unit
Wow.
that you can just plug into a computer, it's a little bit better, like
It,
in
It,
like that
it's
cost to data analysis.
is it
Now
is
that being said,
go ahead.
it doesn't turn anything off or anything like that,
Just
but
monitor.
it's just the monitors.
but
Now
that
it's
being
interesting. It is real interesting that they're able to do a $200 device that can measure all those parameters. That's interesting.
so it's essentially a colorimeter, and it has a couple of metal probes on it that do the conductivity and the pH. But then if you do have to buy a card from them to measure the ammonia. That is, and that's like $20 a month. Now, step like into the last year, you have the Mindstream H2O, which is a completely different world of testing, but also kind of that data set. Like I beta tested for them. I have a unit on my BioCube right now.
Wow.
But it's 14 or 15 parameters, and it retests every 15 minutes, and there's ammonia in there, but there's a lot more like reef based parameters that you're looking for. Like
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
measures potassium and stuff like that are a little more specific to reefing.
And what was it
And
called?
that's the Mindstream H2O.
Okay, cool. Go on.
And that one's about $1,000. They ran a promo at Macna for 30% off, so you could get one for $6.99. I know lead time's about 6 to 8 weeks, just because it's a new product.
Sure.
Um,
So where we're sitting right now is this new product that's coming out might be the next thing for reef keepers, and Denny absolutely feels that if you're wanting to monitor and control, that the Apex Neptune is cost effective, whereas you think that the Senai is more cost effective for seahorse keepers because of the ammonia option. Now, let me ask you both or all of this. Is it really, again, I don't mean to keep repeating, but is it really worth the cost? I'm just thinking I would love to be able to monitor my system. All of this stuff sounds amazing, but the reason I've never done it is the price. It's so expensive.
I think the Senai is in that ballpark of value for you, because you don't necessarily need to buy that card to do the measurements unless, say, you're going out of town for vacation.
Gotcha.
And if you're doing anything in the world of reefing,
Mm-hmm.
the par you can barely buy a par meter for $200 too.
Right.
So that's kind of one of those like compromises where you get two things at the same time, and it's a kind of a deal if you're in that area at all.
Sure.
And to be honest, if you're growing photosynthetic gorgs for your seahorses, you should still be measuring the par.
Right.
If you want optimal growth. But at the same time, like the world of electronic handheld controlled power bars that you can buy on Amazon has gotten to the point where I could buy an 8-plug power bar on Amazon for $100 and pretty much control whatever I need to through that power bar. So it's like
I hear you. I hear you. The two biggest questions for me would be, aside from cost, how hard is this to put together? Do I have to really understand a lot of stuff in order to make it work and make it work right and make it continue working? And then, is there something better going to come out next year? That's the,
So
that's always the crapshoot.
I know.
We always hope something better comes out.
I know, but Denny made a good point that that's one benefit to the Neptune Apex system is that it's been around for a while and they keep updating and they're going to continue. What were you going to say, Harkins? Go ahead, Dan, whoever.
So,
well, the only point I was going to make is that I think Denny's point earlier was a very solid point, in that unlike so many other architectures that we deal with, there needs to be a standardization where things are hot swappable between different things.
Agreed.
It's like the PCs. You can take a hard drive out of one computer, put it in another computer, and with this type of stuff, I think the market share would grow if there was a standardization.
And they shared, right?
Yeah. The one thing like we were, there was just the mention there of like you can buy a power bar that has nothing to do with reef keeping and control outlets, but the thing that you lose there is with the Apex setup, if I've got like a heater attached to the power bar and my temperature probe attached to my tank, then I can have that relationship between turning off the heater if the temperature goes too high, where if you've got somebody else's power bar and somebody else's temperature probe and they're not talking to each other, then you don't have that ability to automate those decisions.
Right. Well, there's another aspect to it too, and that is I already have 150 apps on my phone.
Right.
And when that thing
Yeah.
when that thing makes a beep noise, where the hell did it come from?
Guys, I'm grabbing something,
Yeah.
but Harkins, if you can jump in at any point, please say what you were going to say. I'll be back in 10 seconds. Go.
So what I was going to basically say is he's not wrong. The Apex is kind of now basically become the general standard for the general reef keeper.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
is it the best system out there? I couldn't honestly tell you yes or no. I actually have a Vertex Cerebra on my BioCube. I doubt anybody's really heard of that. It works great when it works.
Yeah, there's a group that's taking a Raspberry Pi board and using that as the basis for a controller similar to the Apex.
Wow.
There's definitely some options out there. It's just that, with this, I know who I can call for help, and I know where I can look for help, and I don't have to be like, okay, well, do I need to reflash this distro Linux on this Pi and, futz around trying to figure it out.
Oh yeah, I will totally agree with you.
That's a big part of it for my perspective. The thing about the ammonia, if there is a standard lab probe similar to the pH probes that can measure ammonia in solution, then you should be able to make that work, because the connectors for the I'm thinking it's the pH and the pH and the salinity or something like that, or the pH and the ORP are interchangeable connectors, and some people actually hook up additional of one kind of probe and program it to behave the other way. So if there is a ammonia solution probe that's a lab probe that has that BNC connector, you probably could take the Apex probe expansion, plug it into that, and find out what the readings are, and actually turn it into something that would work for that. It's just a question of, is there a BNC connector probe that you can stick in your sump or tank that would measure the ammonia? And if it measures it as like a micro voltage, then you could actually make that work on an Apex. And if Neptune had people with Seahorses asking for ammonia, they probably could do it and make it a standard option.
Well, I have to tell you, I used to have a remote system that would smoke everything that you guys are talking about.
What?
It was called an Abby. I could call her and tell her to check this, check
That's
that.
his wife,
turn
you guys.
This on, turn that off. The only problem with that system was every now and then she would tell me to do it my own damn self.
Well, I mean, hey, when I'm not doing this stuff, by the way, I'm a software engineer.
Mm-hmm.
If somebody wanted to pay me, I could build you a PC controlled control system, and we could go all over the place. It's just a question of how much you want to put
could
into
it siphon a tank?
He said, could it siphon a tank?
Could it siphon a tank?
We need something that
I
can
could
actually
teach it.
siphon.
You mean like do a water change?
No, like
Water-
siphon.
Well, what's different in seahorses with a breeder is that a lot of us run bare bottom tanks, and when you have 400 or 500 seahorses in a 90-gallon tank, there's a lot of poop, so you got to siphon it twice a day.
Okay. You're talking about getting the waste out of the bottom.
Yeah.
Okay, so then we'd be talking about, let's see, So we make a remotely operated, like a Roomba for seahorse tanks.
Well, no,
Except for it
I,
can't suck up the seahorses.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
You
the
gotta have
problem,
that
I
the
get
problem
too.
is
that. I get that.
with the little fry, it's a different story. But
Yeah, but I'm just, I'm just mentally picturing. Okay, so you've got a bare bottom tank. So you want something that sits on the bottom of the tank and sucks in the waste and sends it out somewhere, but doesn't take out the horses.
Right. It would
right.
have to know the difference between a turd and a baby. Right. Basically. Harkins, I know you kind of work in the industry. Do you ever have you ever had any seahorse clients do any controlling, any type of monitoring systems? I've always wanted to. I want to find a way to make it cost effective, frankly, because I just think it'd be such a reassurance. So,
So I do have a cold water seahorse system, a
okay.
Pacific Coast Seahorses, and we run a Senai on that system.
Okay. All right.
So
Well, and yeah,
that's
I
kind of why, in my brain, like it works better. That being said,
that.
I mean, the Apex can do a lot for you, but again, it's cost.
Yeah.
Like, I could easily build you a system that could do anything you wanted to with the Apex, but it might cost you $5,000, $10,000.
Yeah. No. Right.
I tell people, like, I can do anything you want as long as you have an endless budget.
Yeah, yeah, that's like what I was saying just now. If you want, if you want the ultimate control system for SeaWorld, if you're willing to pay for it, I can build it. But
So you say that, but I actually have a completely computer controlled shark system
Wow.
uh-huh.
that is in excess of 300,000 gallons, and
Uh-huh.
it was a blank check project.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I got to work with people from MRC. I got to work with people from like Hobart and all these other like commercial companies that
Uh-huh.
do aquarium automation
Yeah.
basically.
But I'm not saying it's trivial, but
Yeah,
but it can be done.
yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, like,
Sorry.
it sounds
Go ahead.
really silly, but like the most effective way to clean a skimmer that's 10 feet tall is a sprinkler timer. Like,
Wow.
you know, like I can tell it to turn on every 30 minutes for 10 minutes to clean the cup,
Yeah.
you know?
You know what?
But
But
like,
but
Go ahead.
realistically, when you're looking at these systems, going back to the cost of these systems, you have to. What I look at is the average hobbyist.
Yeah.
What is affordable to them, and is it beneficial to them to invest in a system like this?
so
Before you answer, I just want to agree 100% because that's been not only my problem, but what people constantly say. There are so many people with these different systems and they look extremely cool and I would love the benefits, but man, go ahead, Harkins. What were you going to say? Sorry.
so the Apex EL was kind of the let's find a compromise. That's
Yeah.
that 499 entry level system.
Danny mentioned
Now,
it, and that's the one that does what, Harkins? Would you?
so you get pH, temperature, and the ability to control all the outlets on one of those EV8 bars. So, that being said, the Fusion dashboard, which was the new release with the 2016 model,
Yeah.
has made it a lot easier for the general public to program it.
Oh,
Yes.
When you
good.
go,
Yes.
you
That's the thing too. Like originally I had the older Apex head end
and you
and
needed
saw
to be
the
a
older
programmer.
website. And definitely the current stuff is much better. And actually, as they do each release, they're improving it. It's getting better in different as they work on a particular feature, they're getting more wizards in there to help you set things up, more little walkthroughs built into it. It's not perfect, but it's definitely they're trying.
Were all of these monitoring systems, like when the companies started, were they focused on and aiming towards more of the, public aquariums and the vendor, like the large scale whatever? Is this not aimed at hobbyists, but like rich hobbyists just jumped in and took over, or what? Or was it aimed at the hobby?
No,
As far
so
as I'm aware, the Apex stuff has always been aimed at the aquarium hobbyists.
Ah,
And it's just a matter of, when they first start. I mean, you can go back and look, and there's some pictures of their first version of their controller from like 10, 15 years ago.
right.
And, it's gotten more user friendly as they've understood that, hey, just because we're engineers doesn't mean that all the customers are engineers.
Right. What were you going to say,
Um,
Harkins?
so
one,
I
one, one thing
Oh,
I
go
just
ahead,
want to say
Denny.
real quick.
Go ahead.
Um, when we're talking about this cost and its value and stuff, it's like, okay, you buy the equipment and then you're going to run that same piece of equipment for several years. So it's not like you're going out and spending another $800 every year. That $800, you should look at it as, like an amortization thing of like, okay, it's gonna last for like 5 or 6 years. So, my cost is one upfront cost, but then I'm gonna run it for multiple years. Just
Well,
one thing to keep
yeah,
in mind.
I agree. In fact, the reason that I'm so interested in this subject is because, I've had things happen that I know could have been avoided had I been monitoring when I wasn't
Yeah,
home and etc. So there's no doubt there's
exactly.
benefit. It's just, you don't see that and sometimes until you have a loss or something, especially with reef tanks, my goodness, when you've put that much into a reef tank, it almost seems silly not to monitor it. Whereas with the Seahorse tank, it's not cheap to set up a Seahorse tank, and they're even more delicate. So it's important to know what's going on. But it's a lot, different. But what were you going to say, Harkins? I'm sorry.
so like I guess it's that cost benefit analysis. Like my running joke in this hobby right now is people will spend $500 on a 1-inch frag,
Right.
but they won't spend $500 on an apex
Right.
that
Yeah,
could stop their whole system from crashing.
yeah,
That
and
being said,
that's
I'm
yeah,
not saying Apex is the only player. Like we not at all tonight have talked about eCoral, and I think eCoral has some stuff in it that's really cool that Apex didn't do. But I think they targeted the wrong audience to begin with, because when they launched at MACNA in New Orleans, so I want to
Mm-hmm.
say that was 2017,
Yes, that's right.
they came out of the gate with a higher cost than the highest cost Apex to begin with.
See, I just
yeah,
That being
why?
said, because they have some parts that like do more things.
Okay.
Like a good example is their water sensor. Like they like instead of having a float switch um or an optical eye to measure your
Right.
water level, they actually have an ultrasonic like sound generator that bounces that ultrasound off the water, and it can actually know the depth change by the millimeter.
All right.
yeah, yeah.
Denny's laughing. What, Denny?
Well, I mean, it's like, yeah, you can do it that way, and that has some benefits. Like he was just saying, you can actually measure, what's the height of the water in the container. But like he was saying, if the cost of doing that, I mean, if you can tell it to do an auto top off with a float switch that costs you $5, then why are you doing it with an ultrasonic thing that costs you 500?
because their idea, this whole eCoral launch was, we want to do it the best way so that you can limit the failures, because float switches fail, because
True.
a
A-
snail climbed
any
on it.
mechanical electronic device ultimately can fail and will
You're
fail at
absolutely
some
right.
point.
They're
And
they're trying to eliminate those variables.
yeah,
Is their goal.
Well, my
And
way,
yeah,
and again,
it's another case of cost benefit analysis. It's like, is the benefit really that high?
okay, well
Is the
for
failure of
that's
the
my
other
real
thing
question,
really
guys.
that
Hey,
bad?
hey, that's my real question here. I really want to understand. I do understand market and e-commerce, and I understand everything. And if they're putting something out that's not there before, how of course they're going to want paid for it. But why aren't? I guess this is more more an emotional question, but why in the world isn't this based on it cost us this much to make and it would be a benefit to people and it would help people? And of course, business doesn't succeed with that thought process, but if they can make a profit and do something good, why is it got to be, well, we're doing better, so we got to charge way more? Just out of curiosity. Any thoughts?
so I will openly say, from my understanding, Apex has kind of attempted to limit the market by either attempting to push people out, or not say, or to say that there's limiting factors of the competition.
Hmm.
So,
That's true in every business.
and I'm not saying that they're wrong or that they're doing something wrong, but it's like Google, like every time somebody builds a search engine that starts to get some traction, what does Google do?
Right.
They just buy them and make them disappear.
Right. Well, let me ask
Well,
you this. Go ahead, Dan.
the problem that I see is that when you look at this hobby, and I look at it from the standpoint of dealing with customers for the last 15 years,
Right.
is that there's two classes in the hobby. There's the people that can do what they want, when they want, how they want, and they're in a much better financial position. But the average hobbyist in this hobby is typically a person that lives paycheck to paycheck. And some of them, in fact, probably shouldn't be in the hobby based upon
Right.
their income, if you will. And, I deal with it all the time. People want to buy a Seahorse, but you can't get them to spend an extra $25 on a better pump or a
Yeah,
protein skimmer or a light. And then when you start talking about this type of stuff, this is where I ask about the cost benefit analysis, to where how feasible it is for people, and the benefits from it. And I get it on the high end people. I've dealt with clientele that cost was never a factor. Um,
Yeah.
but the average Joe out there, cost is a huge factor, and it's hard to get them to spring for a few $100 for something that's going to monitor it. I mean, they can go buy a $20, or did I say $20? They can go buy a cheap cam to watch while they're on vacation, but they won't spend that money.
Well,
yeah,
hey, you guys are. I'll be real for anybody watching. You guys are talking about me. I'm not rich, and I am not willing to fork over $800 for something that's going to tell me the temperature when I don't go on vacation often. However, I'm the same person who wants to know more because I've lost. Because I wasn't monitoring. So, that's why I'm giving you guys all these options to come on here and talk about it,
yeah.
because I would love to find some middle ground. And that's why I'm honestly I'm very still interested in the Apex, but I'm kind of interested in that Senai because, if it could do the exact monitoring that I want without all the cost, I want to learn. I want all the viewers to learn about these new systems coming out. I appreciate you coming and sharing them, and I'll try to contact the owners and get more information. But
Well,
yeah, I'm the person. I can't afford $1,000 and hope that I bought the right pieces and hope that it does what I want and blah blah blah. So
right. And I think there's several things I'm hearing here that all kind of go together in this whole thing, which is, one of them is, what is your budget? You
Yeah.
don't have to have an Apex if your budget doesn't allow for it, you know? And yeah, we should check and see, what these other systems are and evaluate them. And if there's another system that's better for seahorse keepers, and it works, great, use it,
Yeah.
um,
Absolutely. Can I ask both of you really quickly? I'm sorry if I cut you off again. I will allow you to speak, I promise. But from both Denny and Harkins, I'm curious if you would ever again, now that you've experienced using monitoring systems and controllers, would you ever again set up a system without? Or do you think it's necessary?
I plan on continuing to use this unless I see something drastically better. Um, to me, it's worth it. Um, uh, that's my opinion,
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
and I, as you can kind of see, I've invested the money. Um, you know, I don't. I mean, I could set up a tank without all this stuff, but having used this, I like what it does for me. That's my opinion. That's my judgment. If I was more on a budget, like the other gentleman was saying, I mean, really, it's like, well, for example, several years ago, I got out of the hobby completely because I had other things that were going on, and I knew that I couldn't take care of the tank. So I sold everything off and bailed. You know, that's something that each person has to have their own smarts, their own judgment to do the right thing for their situation.
May I interject here?
Yeah, go
Yeah,
ahead.
sure.
You know, you and Harkins present two different scenarios in that you're talking about your own system. In Harkins' situation, if you're maintaining a high-end system for a client that is got a high-end setup,
Yeah,
two different worlds.
of
The
course.
high-end setups obviously make sense because of the amount invested and what they demand, what they expect, and what you have to account for. Um,
So,
in
so
the individual setting where you're monitoring at home, that's an entirely different model than a maintenance person that's taking care of a system.
So I will openly tell you for the first, I don't know, we've been around since 2009. So for the first 5 years of our 10 years of existence,
Mm-hmm.
we didn't run an Apex on a single system,
Wow.
and I mean, I had $1,000 a month service accounts with no monitoring on them.
Yeah.
But over time, like, it was introduced to me, I tested it out in my shop, I trusted it, I liked the data. So we've added it to some of our systems where I could get customers to pay for it. I'm not going to spend my portion of the cut
Sure.
on putting these in on somebody's system just so I can see the data.
Well, I can tell you all of this, and anyone watching, that I'm absolutely certain that I have the answer now. The answer is that every single company that makes a monitoring system needs to send me, Kelly. I'll give you my address, an example, and I will certainly let you all know. No, I'm kidding, but it sounded good to me. But anyways, I would really like to do it. But as you both, all of you have mentioned, it's an investment, so that's one of the things that I wanted to bring you guys on here to say is I can't tell you how much I appreciate, Denny, you sharing how you've got your system set up. One of the things I was confused about is I thought you did, you did explain you have to buy different portion or components for what you want to do, but that's kind of a good thing because if you don't want it all, you don't have to buy it. You mentioned the maybe hobbyist like me version that comes out at 500, which I'm looking at already. And Harkins, I really appreciate you coming in and telling us about some of the other ones. As you're testing different ones, Harkins, do you currently have a favorite? You mentioned let's see, I'm gonna get the names wrong. It was E-Coral was one of them, and I know I've got the other one written down. Mindstream H2O. Which one, if you had a limitless account, would you choose?
So, I mean, if I had a limitless account, I would probably run an Apex with a Mindstream.
Oh wow, now we're getting fancy. I didn't know you could do all
That
that.
so the Mindstream is not going to directly affect the 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 Apex, but I'm very much into I like the data.
Yeah.
So like when I got the chance, Mindstream officially released 3 days before Macna,
Hmm.
but I've had a unit for right around 6 months.
Sure.
I was in the very last beta tester group, and I've had mine. I like it. I like seeing the data. Like I'm one of those guys that I don't have the Seahorse tank, but I have the reef tank. I like being like, I want to turn up my lights 5% and see what happens.
Hmm.
And I can literally see like from day to day within 15 minutes what my coral tank is doing. Like I could tell you just by the fact my alkalinity went down when I turned up the lights 5%, that my corals did not appreciate it.
Gotcha. I mean, that's
You
so
know what I mean?
cool. Yeah. So
So
go ahead.
so there are there's and then something that hasn't even been brought up either is this brand new secret project from Ecotech called Mobius.
Yeah,
Like
I saw it brought up at one point, but go ahead.
it got brought up at Macna. It got kind of sneak peeked at New York. But the thing about it is there are some things that I'm seeing in that I like, that I think are gonna give Apex a run for someone that has the support history.
Hmm.
Like, cause for me personally, like there are certain vendors in this hobby I do not buy product from,
Sure.
because when I need an impeller tomorrow, it's gonna be 3 days
Right.
or 6 days. And for me that does not work
Sure.
as a service company.
Yeah.
There are also times where I need something like for a project and I can't get it for 6 weeks.
Yeah.
So there are certain companies I just won't touch. And Ecotech has, like, I've had Ecotech literally send me pumps before I got them out of my tanks.
Wow.
I'm like, it's gotten to the point where I'm like, dude, there's something wrong with your pump, but I can't take it offline or my system won't work.
Oh.
So I'll pull one off my shelf at my shop because I have a spare of each size Ecotech pump.
Hmm.
And I'll install it, but at the same time, I will not even have sent them a pump, and
And
they'll have sent me a pump.
nice. So you think that the Ecotech is going to give Apex a run for their money because they're such a good company, and you probably know some specs and things that we don't know or what was shared at
I
Macna. Yeah.
So I'm not friendly per se with that Ecotech group.
Mm.
I'm not in any of their beta testing groups or anything like that. I mean, I've been lucky enough to get into like I'm in the Vertex beta testing group. I'm in the Mindstream beta testing group. Like I've helped do some like programming changes to the Mindstream
Cool.
that like have made it easier for people that get it now.
Very
That's
good.
just because that's how I think about things differently, and that's why they wanted different people to try their product. I will also kind of tune off on the Mindstream that like that data does come at a cost,
Sure.
but that data costs you $35 a month if you buy a yearly subscription, where they send you a disc that is measured with all these different parameters.
Mm-hmm.
And it also gives you access to the server and all that.
All of this stuff is so cool, and it's all stuff that every time something new comes out, I'm like, wow, I can't believe how advanced we're getting. And when people can't afford it, it's amazing. And Reef Dude's piped in a little bit in the comments, and I know his take's amazing. I've seen multiple, but my question is, as Dan was saying, is this really focused towards the average hobbyist? I mean, like, it's constantly or is it more the latest and greatest? And having the latest and greatest is cool, but do we really need all this stuff? I mean, is it necessary? I mean,
Well, I think a good example of kind of, I think, what you're talking about, during this last year, there's been the whole thing of Apex Neptune Systems releasing the Trident.
Yeah.
And a lot of people were just really going nuts about, I gotta have it, I gotta have it, I gotta have it.
Yeah.
Why don't you have more? And it's like, well, wait a minute. We've been running tanks and not having automated testing of the alkalinity and
the magnesium and the calcium.
For how many years? And it is not essential. You don't have to have it. If you want it and you can get it, okay. But everybody, calm down. Take a chill pill.
What are you gonna go ahead?
So I think the Trident being the new big testing system, like you have to realize Apex has built their base of people that already have a base Apex system.
Yeah.
And I think that realistically they're targeting the top 25% of the hobby. That is a realistic expectation that I would say that they're targeting. They're not targeting the budget builders, the people. Like, if they wanted to, Apex could spend the money, build a Raspberry Pi based unit for an entry level hobbyist that just told you temperature, salinity, and maybe controlled some outlets for $250.
Can we not do that, please? I mean, please. I'm sorry. I hear you laughing, Dan. But yeah, that's or Danny. I'm sorry if that was Danny. But yeah, that's what I'm saying. And don't get me wrong. If this is worth it, we're gonna figure it out, and I'm gonna test it myself and advise people to get it. But man.
So at the same time, they don't want to deal with that customer.
True. I'm a pain in the ass. I admit it. Excuse me, certain curse.
So but yeah, I hate saying that. Like, and unfortunately, like, I know, Kelly, we've talked about this, but I only do high-end customers.
Right.
Like, my core business is like top 5%ers.
Sure.
And it's not because that's who I want to service. It's because, like, I ran a business where I took any tank that was offered to me.
Yeah.
And I couldn't always collect my payments and, like, and I just found out it's less of a headache to not deal with those people.
Yeah. And unfortunately, like what you were saying about Apex, Neptune Systems, the business has to make a judgment on, what is their target and is it going to economically work, to make that product at that price point, and is it going to be a sustainable business model?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's part of what they've done successfully is figured out, we can spend this much on R&D and sell these kind of products and we'll stay in business.
Yeah, well, they can spend this much money on R&D and develop these products for a very certain subset of clients.
Now, do you both think that a company that sprang up to cater to the average hobbyist, which would buy the system if it was just a little less complicated and a little less expensive. Do you think that wouldn't fly?
So Reef Keeper was the predecessor to
Right.
Apex, even before.
Mm-hmm.
And Reef Keeper was in that market.
Okay.
And it is an amazing product. I have tanks that still run it. I like it. It's a pain in the ass to program,
Gotcha.
to be perfectly honest.
Gotcha.
But Apex pushed them out of the market. I will openly say it to anyone, and they'll pretty much openly admit that they openly tried to push them out of the market.
Now, can you explain to me very quickly, not to get off on a tangent, but why? If they're going after two different markets, if they're going at, if they're aiming towards two different clientele, why?
Because Apex just saw them as competition, period.
Mm,
Like it goes exactly back to that Google search engine thing.
yeah,
Like,
they got to be the
if
number one.
they have to be the number one, and they're the only ones that. And when you have enough resources, you can do it. The guy who ran Reef Keeper had like 5 people on his staff.
Right. Well, and I honestly really feel like that's a shame because, and nothing against Neptune Apex, because I think they're amazing, and I hope to become one of the cool kids that has one at some point. But bottom line is, I just think that that's a shame because they're cutting it out of some people's, as you said, you don't even want to cater to certain crowds. So why not let someone else do it that's willing? You know what I mean? I just,
Yeah, and that's one of those things where it's like, you know, if I, you know, I believe what he said is probably true, but I don't have any personal direct knowledge of it,
sure.
so I can't really judge too much. But if I knew that a company was doing that kind of behavior for that kind of reason, and if I had any opportunity to talk to them, I would tell them, don't do that. That's not cool.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, when you've got a large company that's rolling in a lot of money, sometimes they're just not going to listen. They're going to do what they do as long as they can get away with it. And that's it's sad if they do that, but it's
Business,
unfortunate.
and I mean
Part of
it's
the
business. I don't want to try to make it sound like we're against anyone because that's business, and
yeah,
I
no,
get that.
yeah,
And
it's just,
actually, Reef Dudes mentioned in the comments that eQuarl, which Harkins mentioned a little bit ago, has light versions. There are light versions. So are there any light versions that you guys think are exceptionally good for maybe the average hobbyist, not the spectacular one, like the within a year of starting up and not doing a 5,000 gallon tank, maybe a Seahorse keeper, say, that wants to monitor temperature
See,
and that kind of
I
stuff.
don't know if you can get Dev to jump in or not, but like Dev has the lockdown on pretty much everything I've learned about eCoral has been from Dev, and like I appreciate that he went through the effort of putting that on his Red Sea Nano.
Yeah.
But like
He's very good at
I
doing these testing for sure.
yeah, and like I think you have to find that thing that fits for you. I don't know enough of the specs of that light eCoral to say it's in the right place for you.
Mm-hmm.
To be perfectly honest, I think the Senai is the best fit for you.
Gotcha. Well, Reef Dudes has agreed to come in, so let's see if I can get him. You know what, Reef Dudes? I don't think your email is in my. Does anybody know? Is it Devin at Reef Dudes? I'm on a different email.
I don't know his email.
Unfortunately. Here we go. All right, give me 1 second, guys. I'll try to hop him up in here. Let's see. Trying.
I just need you to add me to your weekly mailing list.
I know it. I need to get a lot of things done. I hear the giggle in the background. Dan, stop it. Okay. Reef Dudes, I'm trying to get you in here. Can you message me the email to use? The links never work in the comments. Sorry.
Yeah, I've had trouble with your comment links.
I know. I know.
Can we see you? I'm tired of looking at your logo.
My logo. Oh, well, the customers see me. Customers. I'm sorry, you're not customers. The community
The YouTubers.
sees me. Let's see. I don't think that I can. Let me see if I can. I don't think that I can because I'm double restreaming kind of thing.
You have to
So
watch her on YouTube, and it's delayed.
because in the video you can see me, but I can't be seen here. Hang on, I'm trying to get it, guys. Sorry. The giggle,
Thank
the
you, Jenny, for
background
showing us
giggle,
your
guys. Stop it already. Okay. Gosh.
Thanks for showing us your tank, Denny.
I was looking around and seeing what things were crawling around, wondering why in the heck all the lights are on this late at night.
Right? They're like, this is not normal.
All right.
So
Go
I'm
ahead and
weird.
talk.
I actually run my tank from 10 a.m. till 10 p.m. so that when I get home, I can enjoy my tank. So I've kind of pushed.
That is
around.
pushing
That's
it.
So there's pearl
chalk
banded shrimp
basslet?
down at the bottom and the chalk basslet up there at the top.
Yeah.
Hang on. Let me show what you're showing here, Denny. There we go. All right. Go ahead.
Kelly, on your YouTube, all you have on your display for people to see is the SW logo.
On what?
Right now, there we go. Now it's showing.
Okay. Sorry, guys. I'm trying to do too many things at once. Apologies. All right. Here we go. I got.
Yeah, we're having a pretty involved set of conversations.
I know. I apologize. I'm gonna shut up. You guys talk. In fact, I'm gonna turn off my cam for 1 second and get Reef Dudes in here to school us on these different options. All right. So you guys chat, show your show, go for it. Whoops.
So I guess I've never ordered from Tampa Bay Saltwater. I have been on their website. I've seen the options they offer as either being the Walt Smith 2.1 rock or the Pucani. Which rock did you go with, Denny?
Actually, what I'm doing is not either one of those two things. Depending on what you looked at on their site, the thing is they have dry rock that they get from Walt Smith, and they've gotten Pucani dry rock in the past.
Yeah.
But what's actually in my tank, and I'm going to switch back when I find the little gizmo here. So this is aquacultured rock that they put into the Gulf.
Yes.
The source material of this is they get in touch with the different deals where they've mined fossilized limestone from places like the Bahamas.
Okay.
So this is it's not coral frags. It's actually fossilized reef rock that's been
limestone.
reintroduced.
Yeah.
And they have done some stuff, and I don't know what the current status is, but he has the guy that started Tampa Bay Saltwater is a guy named Richard Laundrie.
Yes.
And he's been doing this for 20 years, and he's actually stepped away from the diving because of health issues.
Okay.
And he's got a couple of new divers that are going out and doing the diving for him.
Yes.
And I don't know what he's doing currently, but I know at one point he was taking the Walt
Reef Dudes
Smith,
is in.
he was taking the Walt Smith rock putting it out in the Gulf and letting that acclimate and get encrusted, and then harvesting that as one of his options.
Yes, so that's the option that I was interested in, like maybe doing for my next tank. I'm just a little afraid of the creepy crawlies, to be perfectly honest.
I'm a little afraid of the
Um,
creepy crawlies too.
Yeah, well, definitely,
But-
for a seahorse type of situation, I would be much more careful because, like we've talked about,
I've heard you should buy gorgs from him because the gorgs he sends you are like the size of the box he sends them
It's
in.
true.
yeah, the gorgonians that come out of the Gulf are really
Humongous.
they're big and they grow rapidly.
If you
Yes.
guys have ever
They're easy
seen
to
my
frag.
if you guys have ever seen my Gorgonian tanks, that's mainly where I get them. Hey, I know Reef Dudes is on a tight schedule, so hello, welcome, Devin.
Oh, good. How's it going?
Good. Do you want to give us a
Okay.
little more information on the SNI?
What would you like to know about which controller?
Okay,
your
what we're trying to figure out is for the average hobbyist that's looking to, and Dan asked some questions earlier about a controller that would monitor ammonia was a big thing, and for the average hobbyist be affordable, a little more
All right.
affordable.
So your main goal is to monitor ammonia.
Well, and everything else.
Like what's your goal with it?
Okay,
What do you
I'm
want
just
it to do? Like what's your
okay for me in particular. What I would like to do
Yeah.
is monitor multiple systems. I would like to know as much as I can for as least possible. There you go. There's the truth.
But what do you want to know though? Like
Ammonia,
'cause you got,
pH, salinity, temperature would all be nice.
all right. So, okay, ammonia is one of those ones that really it is an automated tester like the Senai, which you guys were kind of recommending earlier.
Mm-hmm.
That one tested, I believe it does. I'm like 90% sure it tests ammonia.
I'm like 100% sure it tests
Okay, yeah.
ammonia.
He
So
was
the only
explaining
two-
you have to do a card or something, but go on.
Yeah, there's slides you got to replace every month or so.
Mhm.
Now I've used the Senai, but I've never used the slides. I've only used it as a par meter. So that's why I wasn't 100% sure what all it tests, but it does test ammonia, like you were saying. Aside from that, none of the other controllers do. They'll test salinity. Neptune's salinity probe's a bit flaky. The one on the eCoral's been solid. A couple other ones coming out is like GHL's another brand. It's not as big in North America, more in Europe. There's also a new one from one of the Coral View related ones called like Hydros or something like that.
Hydros, yes.
Yeah, I was talking to them at MacDan, and they have like I think the cheaper one was $200 and the fancier one was $400.
Hey.
So, I mean, they're coming in at a very good price point.
Yeah.
So I think that's gonna have a lot of potential for kind of like the entry level. I don't want to spend a fortune on a controller group.
Right.
And the one thing I did see with that Hydros was really cool is like they just have open BNC ports, and you're just gonna tell it what you want it
Yeah.
to
so
monitor.
It's like
And they've
standard
already
connectors.
coded it that, yeah.
Yeah, they coded some kind of safety so it wouldn't pre-enable it so that you can just change it to whatever you want it to be. So it's fairly universal, which look cool. So they have a neat perspective with it. I did film a video with them about it actually, but my audio is a bit buggery, so I haven't dealt with that yet. But it seems like there's some good potential, especially for the price point on that guy. You also talked about Mobius, which is Ecotech's new one coming out.
Yeah.
Which you probably know more about than most of us.
Let's
Yeah,
hear
I've been
it.
testing it for a while. So I'm using it. Basically, it's kind of like a controller without having a controller in a weird way. Like a lot of the equipment will talk to each other and you can work it in. If you've used, maybe I'll do a live stream on this and show it.
Yeah.
What do you want to call it? You know, like AI, like I don't know if you've ever used the Nero pumps
Yes.
or AI lights, how they all talk through Bluetooth and you can do it through the app. It's kind of like that, basically.
Gotcha.
It's a similar idea.
Okay. Now, does someone that's interested in something like that have to know how to set up and program and etc., or does it come working?
Oh, it's super, super duper easy. Like
Okay.
click next, super easy.
Okay.
They did a good job of making it really easy.
Good.
So that
Well,
would
I appreciate that they've merged those two product lines into the one controller or subset, from what I understand. Anything
I don't- Yeah, I don't know if they'll use the same app, but it's very similar how like you set up the pumps and the lights and stuff. So very, very similar. I mean,
From my
Ecotech owns AI, so it kind of makes sense that they'll be super similar.
so from my understanding, when I talked to, I can't remember his name. Who was the main guy you talked to that is at all the shows?
Jay?
Jay, yeah.
Yeah.
From my understanding, when I talked to Jay, was the goal was to have AI and Ecotech products in the same app at the same time, like run an AI Nero 5 and an MP10 on your tank at the same time, but they still talk to each other.
Nice. Yeah.
So,
So I don't know. I'm gonna ask them to confirm. But yeah, that's it wouldn't surprise me one bit though. Seems like a good way to go with it. But yeah,
So
it's definitely good. Now, just okay. One more quick thing. Yeah, you also talked about ReefBot and some of the other stuff. So ReefBot, you can load whatever test kit you want in. So if you wanted to know like ammonia and like nitrate and something else, you just load in those vials. It just automates the testing, automates manual chartation testing.
nice.
So then you could, that one's cool because it's flexible. And one thing I like about it is all the other testers have a minimum testing frequency, right? Like my Alcatronic is, minimum every 12 hours, up to hourly or whatever you want. Like the Neptune Apex, minimum 4 elk tests per day, a couple calcium, couple that. Like I don't like the Mindstream test every 15 minutes, which is cool. But at the same time, like I don't care to know my calcium every couple hours. I don't care to know my magnesium. Like they don't change
Right.
that quick, right?
Yes.
So I like the fact that I can test, like I have mine set up for like nitrates, phosphates, magnesium. I tell it to test every Friday. Like I don't care to know every day. It's just a waste of reagent to me.
Gotcha.
I also, when I buy stuff, I also like a lot of them. I look at the running costs, like what's my best bang for my buck long term. Like I'll spend more up front if it's cheaper long term. Like that's kind of how I look at stuff, anyways.
No, that's smart.
Yeah.
and that's where for me, like I beta test the Mindstream. I looked at the $35 a month covering just reagents.
Yeah.
Like, to be honest, it with the frequency of testing, it would cost me 100 times that in reagents.
Oh yeah, for sure it would.
And so that's why I've really liked it. But again,
on the other argument, would you actually ever test that much?
Right.
It's nice to like. It's cool to see the data, right? It's cool to make a tweak and see 20 minutes later what changed over the next couple hours.
So
like that's definitely a nice feature. Okay, sorry.
What is cool is that I have it on my home tank.
Yep.
And it's a 32 gallon BioCube, right?
Mm-hmm.
I had a cleaner shrimp die in my tank, and approximately an hour after, I knew something died in my tank because I had levels changing.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So, and so like, would you test that often? No, but are there cool things that because it tests that often you can actually see? Like I don't know if you were in here when I said it earlier, but like I turned my lights up 5% and my alkalinity consumption actually went down.
Wait. I have a question.
Oversaturating them with light.
I have a question. So, you guys lost me long ago, and Reef
Sorry.
Dudes.
Welcome
It's
back.
okay. It's okay. It's all good. But Reef Dudes, I definitely want you to give your personal thoughts because you've tested so many of these different controllers on something for Seahorse folks who are just mainly concerned with those things I talked about at first. But I got confused when you guys were just talking because you said that if it was sending you tests every 5 seconds, then you can do a better job monitoring. I thought if it was monitoring, I mean, can you set it just to tell you when there's a damn problem or no?
So no. So Mindstream is a tester. Every 15 or 20 minutes, whatever it is, it does an automated test. And it has little discs that react the reagent color, and it does it that way. So something like an eCoral or GHL or an Apex, those have ability to do an action based on a result.
Now I got it.
The other ones just tell you, where if you look at a Senai or a Mindstream or some of these other products, they're just doing a test and then telling you the data. You still have to go do something. So they're a tester, not a controller.
Okay.
Now, there's some products that kind of blend it, like Alkatonic will test your alkalinity and it can dose it to correct it. And they have like an add-on for Dosetronic, so you can have like 5 dosing heads all dosing based on that. And then like the Reef Bot, I know they're coming out with a doser that you can dose based off it. And then GHL, like, will dose off their, what's theirs called?
The Ion Director and the KH Director.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
KH Director. And they're coming out with one called the Ion Director, which uses an ion probe to test, like, magnesium, phosphates, all that other stuff. So.
Right. So, okay.
Yeah.
So, in your opinion, for someone who doesn't give a crap about all of that stuff, I'm sorry, but this is mainly Seahorse folks, and they're like they got lost with me an hour ago. But in your opinion, if someone is, I was thinking that a monitoring and control system that could temperature is the big thing. Temperature and whether you're using heater or chiller, and then of course all of anything additional is bonus. Temperature's key. Dan said as at a breeder aspect, ORP and ammonia if possible, but which is the most cost friendly that actually works for those type of things?
So, okay. I've personally never worried about ammonia, but if you're running like bare bottom tanks breeding with fry in or something, maybe you care about it. So that one, I mean, Senai is really the only one that's going to do that outside of some other tester that you added onto.
Okay.
For a basic thing, like the eCoral Light has a pH or ORP probe, so it can run either one. Or that hydro or whatever it is. It's coming out for like $200 or $400, depending on which model, which is pretty cheap. And Apex does have their light version, but it's still $500. So.
But they all do temperature also, correct?
Yes.
And
if nothing else, you should have a temperature controller.
Okay.
Like, and the cheapest bang for your buck is like Inkbird, I think they're called. You can buy them off Amazon for like $40-$50.
So wow. I run a 6-gallon tank in my daughter's room, and it runs an Inkbird that's actually connected to the internet. And if that tank it turns on a fan if it's too hot, it turns the heater on if it's too cold, and it sends me an alert. It sends me an alert if it's out of either of those parameters that I set, and it sends it to my cell phone.
You got the new Wi-Fi version. Nice.
Yes,
I mean, that sounds more. I mean, honestly, what you guys talk about is amazing, fascinating. I love watching your videos, Reef Dude. I love hearing you guys talk about this stuff. I love Denny's walkthrough showing us all this equipment. But for the average Joe, we just want to make sure things are running right and be able to go on vacation. That's about it.
Yeah.
So
number one thing, nothing else. Have a heater controller, because that's the most common thing that causes an issue in a tank.
And you can get that one that connects to the internet for about $35.
No kidding.
So number one, buy that.
Then it's stupid not to do it. But a lot of people, hear all of this talk and all of this jazz, and they think, well, I gotta have this because everybody else has this, and da 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 da. But for if you shush up. But the bottom line is is there a difference in quality based on brand?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, of course there is. There always is. But it's bang for your buck, right? Or what fits your lifestyle. Like, there's lots of stuff that's nice to have. You don't need it, but it makes your life easier. It's nice to have it, but you don't need much.
I personally think the GHL stuff, in my opinion, is a little nicer than even the Apex stuff, but it is more expensive. That's why I knew, Kelly, like that was your goal, was not to spend a fortune. So I didn't even bring up GHL.
No.
Because I just know, like it's a German company, and they're coming to actually manufacture in America next year for the first time ever. And it's actually to get their costs down, because labor in the U.S. is going to be cheaper than labor in Germany.
Out of the current controllers, I think GHL is likely one of the best made, like physically made ones.
Yes, I'm going to agree. The components in it are beyond
hobby level. Like they'll do professional, like all the good stuff for parts inside of it. So they do a really good job on that. Their software historically was a lot more old school, like it wasn't as user friendly as the Neptune one. Their newer one is definitely getting a lot better. It's like more drop down and more friendly.
Gotcha.
I haven't personally used it yet, but I had like demoed and played a little bit at one of the shows. But
so what I was trying to get at was, I think you're going to have to go with a hybrid method, where like bang for your buck, Senai might be the best thing to buy, with an ink bird that's connected to the internet and a couple of, you know, UL rated, like
Smart plugs.
controllable smart plugs.
So you
For the
can look at
money,
your, yeah.
yeah, for the money, I realistically think you could probably get away with buying a Sinai if you already have a PC to hook it up to. And
Yeah, that's the one annoying thing.
yeah,
So
That's the
Senai,
one thing I really would like to know too is the caveats. Oh, nobody mentioned you have to hook it up to a PC.
yeah,
you
it
either
needs a
hook it up
computer,
to a PC or you hook it up to their Wi-Fi hub.
Okay.
which isn't cheap. And if you're really techy, you can build one with the Raspberry Pi as like a wireless USB extender, and then still just let the app be open on your laptop.
Well, to be completely honest, my goal, it wasn't just personal. I was hoping that, because I've had a lot of requests for, we want to know about these controllers. We want to, we want to monitor our tanks. Everybody under the sun wants to know how to monitor a Seahorse tank when they're on vacation, but nobody wants to spend this money. And I mean, that's ridiculous. You should, controllers are, as you said, Reef Dudes, or Devin, sorry, as you said, it's extremely important, at least for temperature in all aquariums for sure. Absolutely. Yep. But I just wondered what you would advise someone with that outlook.
Yep. So, I mean, Inkbird temperature controller, Wi-Fi one, you can check remotely. Like, you're going to have multiple apps, so it's not as streamlined, but it'll do the job.
Yeah.
Like you said before, the Senai, if you care about ammonia, Senai is probably one of your better options because it can also, actually Senai can do temperature, but it can't control it. So the Inkbird would control it. It'll still send you an alert if the temperature is all wacky.
Right.
And
I liked that $200 one you were talking about. Shoot, $200 to $400. That's me right there.
the Hydros or Hydros or something like that.
I'm only concerned with that product that they're not going to be able to meet demand, A, and B, I have struggled with support from CoralView.
Oh, it's CoralView?
I love CoralView, but I've struggled with their support a little bit.
Yeah, it's someone they partnered with, I believe, or something like that.
Cool.
It's a CoralView is kind of like the Amazon of our industry. They find the cool stuff and then bring it into their brand tree.
Gotcha. Well,
now
go ahead.
Like we mentioned earlier too, if you had a couple smart plugs, like this is like manual controller, but if you got a pop-up of something happen, you could just click into your controller and then turn something off physically yourself, but you'd have to be the one managing or monitoring it.
Right. See, that's the thing is you guys talk about this stuff like, oh yeah, just put a couple PC2s in the XYZs and, it'll take care of it all for you. And I'm like, Raspberry Pi? Are we eating this? Yeah, okay. But I'm sure that many of the viewers know what the heck you're talking about, so we are good. I actually do know what you're talking about, and I appreciate your advice, and it's good. So thank you.
Ellie, where are you located?
I am in Indiana. Hicktown, USA.
See, if I was going to be in your area, I'd just come set that stuff up for you.
Well, but
it's really not hard.
I believe you. I do believe you. And I know Reef Dudes has some excellent videos about all the setup and running of this equipment. Everybody go see Reef Dudes channel. It's excellent for sure. But I just kind of wanted to do a stream, hopefully catering, finding more out about Apex for sure. And then second of all, catering to the average hobbyist, reef tank, maybe seahorse keeper, etc. kind of person who just wants to monitor and control, but doesn't need all the bells and whistles. And you've answered the questions, and I appreciate it. So, I will be checking into the things that you've advised, and, we'll find something.
But again, something that you kind of brought up earlier is that you have multiple tanks.
Right, I do, but I also cared about people setting up one. They want a controller, but they don't want to spend $800. It's just,
and that's where like the Apex kind of has that one up. Like if you have multiple tanks, like I was telling you before, you can set up for all 5 of your tanks
on the brain.
And then instead of buying 5 brains, you only have to buy certain modules, which cost significantly less than a brain.
Sure.
But yeah.
Do any of the other systems that we've discussed tonight, if you had multiple tanks, would you have to buy a different system for each one?
It depends. So Neptune is by far the oldest one. So they have like a bazillion modules.
Mhm.
Eco's still pretty young. The one cool thing they have is wireless power bars. So you could have something across the room and control it. However, you need something else to
Oh,
deal with the sensors.
okay.
The Hydros one, if I'm saying that correctly, theirs is wireless to talk to stuff. So theirs would be good for, talking to a different chunk. But they don't really have modules. You just buy like a second brain and they can work together. But they're also $200, right, for the brain to
Right.
$400 depending on
It'd
which
be
model.
kind of cost effective. And Denny, I didn't forget you're here. I still appreciate your sharing everything. And for many people, this is the answer. And you shared valuable information that will help people. So thank you. Um, just for us cheapskates, you know. I mean, to be clear, anybody watching, the reason that I'm asking all of these questions is because I do think that monitoring and controlling your system is extremely important. And just because I've failed on that job and I'm trying to pick up the slack now doesn't mean that you guys should. This stuff is very important, and you don't know until you lose everything, and then you're like, shit. And luckily, I haven't lost everything, but I have lost an entire Seahorse tank, my favorite, because I didn't know that something was happening. So I appreciate
What
every single
happened?
one of you guys. Huh?
Just out of curiosity, like what happened? Like what was the piece that?
Well, honestly, that was a really shitty question. No, I'm just kidding. But the bone, in my case, it was that the person taking care of the tank on vacation did not turn the system back on in the
Okay.
proper fashion. But and a monitor or controller would have at least alerted me that something was going
Hmm.
on. So. And if I hadn't been depending
Okay.
on a person, then I could have,
No, that's fair. I'm just curious, like if it was
yeah.
a equipment failure, like what happened. Okay.
No, it was human failure and bad judgment call on my part. And it was a long time ago, but it still sucked and I still regret it because it was my favorite Seahorses, of course. So,
Hmm.
and temperature is like huge because I've had cases, I've done a couple videos where, I had to deal with different problems because of the fact that I had a temp spike in the middle of the day, couldn't get to it, and I fixed it when I got home, but there are residual effects. So keeping it stable is key, whether you're talking Seahorses or reef. So
That's where like
Hmm.
that ink bird kind of can make the difference, in my opinion. For
Yeah, it's your
for
best bang for your buck.
for the
yeah,
average hobbyist, like I don't see a reason why the average hobbyist does not run an Inkbird. And I've actually been talking with Inkbird directly about coming out with an Inkbird that is more tailored to our saltwater hobby.
agreed. I can't
Where
I can't wait to see it because actually they
where
sent me a product and I thought it was amazing. And I asked all you guys because everybody talks about certain brands, and I wanted to hear what was better about them and what was worse. And the one complaint I had with that particular brand is that it's chunky, bulky, and doesn't look like anything you'd want to put next to your aquarium. So go ahead. Sorry.
So one thing that I'm always advocating for is like their temperature probes are stainless steel.
Hmm.
And in my personal opinion, stainless steel will fail in our aquariums. It's just time.
Okay.
Yep.
So they make a different temperature probe that is plastic for
Hmm.
one of their like grow out temperature regulators.
Hmm.
And I said, the best thing you could do for this hobby is to make your digital controller, which is connected to the internet, with a removable pluggable version of that plastic one for this hobby. I was like, you got it like 9/10 of the way there with the last model.
Hmm.
Just get it that to 10 out of 10 by putting a plastic monitoring one that is still replaceable.
Right.
I agree.
Because if you could literally add all of those things, I could not tell the average hobbyist if it was $40, let's say, which is $5 more than they're selling the current one.
Mm-hmm.
If it's not on sale, which they always seem to be on sale.
Yep.
They're $50 regular, right?
Yep.
So say it's $55 not on sale. I still couldn't tell the average hobbyist not to buy it because it provides, like the one I run, my daughter's tank only varies a degree in the whole day, and I live in Vegas, and I don't I'm opted into a program where the electrical company could actually increase the temperature in my house by 2 to 4 degrees
Mm-hmm.
in the summer, and it still keeps pace with my tank.
Nice.
So I honestly can't tell anyone that gets in this hobby that they should not have a temperature controller even at $55 if it could do all of those things.
Right.
I'm with you.
Absolutely.
If nothing else, temperature controller.
Mm-hmm.
And the other pro tip is if you need a 100-watt heater, use 250 watts.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You got the extra double redundancy.
Well,
Yeah.
I can't tell you how much I appreciate you guys sharing your opinions because, I mean, I don't know. Reef dudes, how long have you used controllers and monitors, and would you if you did not have such extensive tanks?
I would run at least a heater controller and an auto top off.
Which we just
That'd be the
discussed.
minimum.
That's really important. Yeah.
An auto top off. That'd be like my minimum. And likely a doser, because I don't think I could ever go without in coral.
Right. Right. Absolutely.
But yeah.
That's my QT
Yeah.
tank. Is just a heater controller and a ATO. That's it. That's
Mhm.
what I run. That's like a base level tank for me. That's what we run.
Now, for the folks that can't afford it and just want the absolute best, which is your favorite? Did you say, or do you not want to say?
For what?
For your system, what would you choose if you had to choose one?
Like all out controller?
Yes.
At the current point, probably Neptune, just because they have the most, but
Gotcha.
that may possibly shift in the future.
Gotcha. Well, good answers. I very safe. No, I'm kidding. You're awesome. Thank you so much for jumping in. What were you gonna say?
I'm gonna
Perkins.
probably agree with him. Like if just because of the ability, I think the Apex is probably currently the best.
Yeah, there's lots of cool stuff coming out, but it's not out yet, and I haven't used it, so I can't say for sure.
Sure. Oh, I gotta be honest. I'm glad that there's new stuff coming out. As much as I have so much respect for this company, you guys, I try to play the devil's advocate, and I try to, fight for more for the hobbyist or whatever. But bottom line is, I think they're doing an amazing job, and the system is top notch. Just that price point. So I think that more competition and more options for people that are, maybe not so high end would be really nice.
Yeah,
but we'll see.
Yep. I mean,
I honestly
so
think
I the thing is, they expect in the next 2 years the market to just explode.
Yay!
Because I perfectly honestly know the Cerebra 2 is coming. Mine should be here in a couple of weeks.
Oh, it's actually shipped finally?
So for anyone that had a Cerebra 1, we all got a Cerebra 2 for free of charge.
That's sweet.
Because of the hassle that we went through with the 1.
I'm in the beta testing group that supposedly has been coming for a while, so
you will go back on there and see if they'll ship it to you. So Greg Carroll is also in the group.
Yep.
And he's got his, but he's a lot closer with Vertex than I am. And with the cool things that the Cerebra 1 did, if they can match or beat that and then go get expandable like the Neptune, they'll be a strong contender.
So what were some of the cool things that it could do?
So it did all your normal.
Other ones didn't. Yeah.
So it did all the normal pH. It did all the temperature. I love their temperature probe. It's USB.
Mhm.
It's not BNC or any of those other connections. And it actually had lights in it. And it would actually tell you if the temperature was going up in the tank or going down by a flashing directional light in the tube.
Wow.
Nice.
It was that I was like, that to me was like, well, I can, like, in the middle of the night you could see it like across the room and be like, oh, the tank's good because it's green, or it's red and it'll tell you red going up or red going down, like it's 3 LEDs and they move in a direction. So like it's that immediate, like you talked about on your stream today, how like if something goes wrong, you're gonna turn on a light with a different code, you know. But this was like right there, and that temperature is kind of one of those things that we're always struggling and trying to keep track of. And then like you could do, I would say, everything that an Apex could do in terms of controlling outlets, plus a few more things.
Okay, nice.
Like I could give it like advanced scheduling tasks that would have taken you like hours to write in an Apex. Like
Nice.
it already lets you do the if and then, you know, but under like time parameters and, you know, like all kinds of other things. So I mean, like there were some really cool things in there, but when they decided to kind of turn the servers off that we were all using, we were all pissed.
Yeah, no kidding.
Because it made things a lot harder to, like, if you were connected to the server and talking to your bar, you could do it all really quick. If you actually had to do it on the screen that they had, it's a lot harder. To be perfectly honest, the thing that killed the Cerebro one was the cheap computer board they were using and a cheap memory card.
It's unfortunate.
Because you literally had to flash that memory card about once every other month to bring it back to the last programming, because something would corrupt inside of there. So that was the bad part, and hopefully, like, I'm excited to see what it does, but I won't lie, the first one crashed my tank, like when the computer dumped one time.
Well, go ahead.
That was basically because I didn't realize that you could actually set fallbacks in the in the bar. So like when the computer stopped talking with the bar, it would just do certain things, and it turned off all the flow in my tank. Because the default on the bar was everything would turn off.
Well, Reef dudes, quit saying it and say it out loud. NH3 is the big Senai advantage. What?
Yeah, I don't know, because you guys keep talking about ammonia. Like, if that is an important one for you guys, then Senai is a good one for that. I don't know. I think that Wi-Fi module is expensive for the Senai. The Senai itself isn't bad, but the Wi-Fi thing seems overpriced to me. Yeah.
I think if you could hook it up to like one of those $50 tablets, you'd probably be fine.
Well, it just seems like all of these systems are really, you know, you guys come on here, you talk about all these systems, and I think it's great. But frankly, all of you guys are getting them for free and testing them. I mean, come on, man. And bottom line is,
I'm not getting. The only thing I've ever gotten for free was the Vertex system. Everything else I've paid for.
Well, I wasn't meaning it as an insult at all. Yeah. I just was kind of cracking a joke. But the bottom line is, they seem the more you guys talk, the more complicated they seem, more out of reach they seem. I know what that means, but 90% of the people watching this have absolutely no clue what that means. You know.
No, that's the easy part. If this, then do this.
Right, but you have to know how to write it.
If temperature greater than 80, then off.
Oh, really? It's that simple? It's not coding?
Yeah, like, no, it's not that bad. Okay. It's simple enough. I mean, maybe it's complicated or intimidating for the first like few hours, but then after you get the basics, it's not bad at all.
Okay, well, my original question, so I'm curious, I'll just ask it one more time. If someone wanted to start off base-wise and they're looking at all these different systems, do most of them offer a basic package that says this is what you need to do this, and that's it? You won't need other components. If you want to do just this, this is what you need, and you're not going to need an extra cord or a Wi-Fi plug or this or that or all this extra parts.
Most controllers come with a temperature probe, a pH probe, a brain to take actions based on it, and a
Yes.
power bar with controllable outlets. That is kind of the de facto standard for most controllers.
Okay.
For the kind of basic ones. As you go up to the advanced ones, I usually add in stuff like ORP and other kind of like salinity probes, all that type of stuff. So they just add more probes
Fun.
and
Okay.
ports to control stuff.
Very
That's
cool.
the basic how they all work.
Okay, and with the Apex $500 Elite, whatever you guys said it was called,
Yep.
that comes with those basic functions.
Yeah, okay, so you don't get an ORP probe, you get a pH probe, a temperature probe, yeah, the basic power bar.
And salinity, right?
I don't know if they use salinity or not. Personally, I find the Apex salinity probe's always been flaky for me, so I wouldn't trust it anyways.
Agreed.
You don't get the 0 to 10 volt ports on the basic one. I've never used those in my life, so I can care less about those.
Okay.
There was one other thing they took out. I think the ORP probe is not there.
Okay.
And I don't think the 12 volt.
Yeah, the 0 to 12.
Yeah.
No,
They
the
took
12 volt reception plug, like the one you guys talked about on your stream today. I think that one's gone too. Which that's just for tracking if you have power on and off on that one.
Oh, no, it still has that.
It does?
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
pH,
Cool.
Ethernet, I/O, Aquabus. Yeah, I just found a picture of the basic one.
All right. Well, obviously, anybody watching, if you want the real details about all of these different systems, seriously, Reef Dudes has done videos and live streams about all of them. Excellent. I was just hoping to tune in more on what seahorse keepers need, and I think we got a few answers here, so that's very cool. Thank you guys all for coming in and sharing your information. And is there anything else you guys want to chat about or want to share? Was there anything we missed?
What else do I want to chat about?
If anyone has any like burning questions or like just some advice, like they could always hit me up on my Harkins Aquatics Instagram. I'll try and do my best to answer you.
Can you please put a link to that? And Reef Dudes, feel free to put a link to your channel and your information in the comments, please. Because obviously I can't help you guys. I just bring the people in to help you. But yeah, these guys are great. And if they got a little over your head, don't worry. They'll walk you through it for sure. They hold my hand all the time. And Reef Dudes, how are you doing? How's your tank? I've been so freaking crazy busy. I haven't caught up. In fact, I missed MacNet. Oh, you didn't go to MacNet either, did you?
Yeah, I did. I was there.
Oh, you did
For
go to
another
the special.
storm.
Oh, you
Yeah.
lucky shit. All right. Was it
It's good.
amazing?
It was at Disney. It was great.
I
And
know.
because of the hurricanes, the lines to Disney were nice and short. It was perfect.
Nice. Did you get to go to
Uh-huh.
Disney too?
You betcha.
Awesome. What was your favorite booth or etc.? What was the coolest thing you saw at MacNet?
That's a hard one. I don't know. There was some neat stuff.
Do you have a video out already?
No.
Slacker.
I filmed a bunch. But,
I believe it. I'm sure we'll see some awesome, cool stuff. Are you already booked?
Yeah, we just bought a house, so I've been in the middle of
Ooh.
renos and prepping and
That new
tanks.
tank.
Be moving in the near
Awesome.
future in new tanks, and I've been spending my life doing trim and baseboard and painting, and so I've had no life. My tank is neglected the past month or so.
Uh-oh. But
Yeah.
I've seen your videos. You're a pro at moving, so, it'll all be fine. He's one of
That's
those
true.
guys, you guys, where, everybody else has crashes and problems. He just moves it, and it's all good. It's wonderful.
I
But
had a coral artian on me.
no! See, I'm kidding
Mhm.
around, but I never want to see that happen. What happened?
I don't know. Just started a little bit of white and go more and more and more. That's sad. I fried off a few branches, so hopefully those ones live. But
Aw.
aside from that, the tank's good.
Good. Well, I've said plenty of times, and obviously I'm more into the seahorse, coral, macro, or Gogronian macro kind of thing. But bottom line is, the more established the tank gets, the better it seems to run, and I don't have to do as much. Do you notice after you move that you have to do more, a lot more?
Not overly. I mean, if you move a tank or you set up a new tank, like it's always a few months until things settle in again, right?
Yeah.
Like generally, I always find it's a couple for sure, like 3-4 months, so then I'll start to get back in its groove again. But
Truth.
I'm gonna attempt to put both of my tanks into a much smaller tank, so I'm not quite sure how that's gonna play out yet, but we'll see.
Why?
Oh, you're doing both of them into the office system?
I'm gonna try.
Yeah, you're gonna run out of space just with rock.
I know, I'm worried about that too. But it's full of coral, so I don't want to get rid of it.
I get it, but why are you tearing down the nano?
Because the nano's going away.
Oh, the nano's got to go away.
I have a 2-tank limit, so I need to play within it.
Oh.
Good man, sticking to the rules. We'll leave it there.
Yep, I know. So,
I went above the rules. It doesn't usually the person giving you the rules is very wise, and you get above that and it gets too much, and yeah.
that
So
would be my wife. She says if I get a 3rd tank, she gets another puppy.
I'm with her. I figured it was your wife, and that's why I said it. Just go, wife.
It's okay. It's okay. I have a 300-gallon frag system coming online in the next 6 weeks, so
Nice.
it's gonna be a new challenge, and my goal is to plumb everything into the same system. I'm so
Ooh.
tired of having 4 different things in 4 different places. So I'm
Yes.
setting up. I'm probably gonna do advanced acrylics, one of those PVC sumps,
Nice.
and
awesome.
and
We can't wait to see
I already had the acrylic frag tank that it was locally here in Vegas, and it broke one of the cross supports, but it's acrylic, and I know how to do acrylic work really well, so I fixed it in a couple hours. So I'm not really worried about it now. So I am super excited because that's gonna let me actually like grow out coral for the first time in a long time.
Nice. That'd be cool.
Because I have a 32-gallon system right now with about 150 frags in it because I picked up way too much coral at Reefapalooza, California.
Nice. Do you guys ever get tired of, I mean, like, as much as I enjoy watching you folks, it seems like you're constantly changing tanks, upgrading, downgrading, moving, combining. Does it ever get, or is that the excitement for you?
I do love a tank build. It does
Yeah.
feel partially ridiculous to be upgrading because my tank's not even a year old.
Right,
However,
you just did
if
this
I have
huge
to move-
upgrade.
If I have to move the tank anyways, I might
Right.
as well sneak in an upgrade.
Yeah.
I-
If you can
Just-
find
I'm
a
gonna-
reason, yeah, I gotcha.
Basically.
I'm gonna agree. If you're gonna have to move a tank, that's your perfect time. That if you really want to make that upgrade, that's the time to do it.
Right. Well, I want to congratulate you too. I'm so glad, Devin, that you're, moving up in house and reef tanks. Absolutely. Very cool. Are you headed to Phoenix for sure?
For next year's
Yeah.
MACA?
For
Yeah.
MACNA, yeah.
There's a good chance of it.
Okay. Cool.
I just finished this one, so my mind hasn't gotten that far, but
I know you still got to do the videos, right?
I know. I have no life. I'm so behind on that stuff.
I will openly say you will probably see me at least 8 shows next year.
That's a good
Nice.
chunk. Nice.
So, if all goes the way I believe it to go.
Vendoring or attending?
Both.
Nice. Solid plan.
So,
I like it.
Yes.
Yes to all.
Well, good deal for both of you for sure.
No. But I know we're talking about MACNA and like the Mazda election is coming up. I don't know if everybody here is a Mazda member or not, but just
I am.
Keep an eye to the ground for that because there's a lot
You
of
running?
quality. I'm
Running
not
for
actually
it?
going to run for an electable position. I'm going to be on the
Committee?
membership committee.
Yeah.
I'm going to be in the membership director position, but it's not a voting position.
Nice.
I'm to my knowledge, I'm the only person running for that position. It hasn't been filled in 3 years, and that's why I'll be at a
Oh.
lot more shows.
Oh, well then I'm
Sounds
gonna have
like
to
you're
go
gonna get
run. Just kidding. I'm just kidding. Just kidding. That's awesome. I can't wait to
If
see
you
it.
want it,
No,
if you
no,
want it, you can have it.
I'm good.
Because I worked this last year for about 50 to 60 hours just to get their list current
I'm sure.
of existing clubs, and it's a mess. Like, because nobody has done that job for 3 years.
Right.
So
Well, no, it's all
it's a
you.
challenge.
It's all you. I'm excited to see what you do with it, though. Congrats. Good job. Can't wait to see it.
I just
Um,
want to see Masna grow. Like, as much as, like, I openly say there isn't a reason why every single person in North America that has a marine aquarium isn't a member. The information is that we provide you is insane. Like, and if you have a local club that is registered,
yeah.
the opportunity to have someone like Julian Sprung come speak at your meetings and
Mhm.
stuff like that is just insane. Like, that amount of knowledge that you could get for basically free.
Do you want to know what I think the problem is with that? I probably should not say, but I'm still going to.
Do it, because I'm trying to grow the club, and the only way to do that is to know what the problems are.
Okay, so I think that it's basically that they take the wrong approach, the wrong marketing, first of all, and then second of
I'm
all, I think that the knowledge base has taken a turn. For instance, you
so
guys, I'm going to explain, I promise, and I could be wrong. I could be very wrong. But my opinion is, based on my own efforts and based on watching others' efforts, is that the knowledgeable, how many people attended the speeches at MACNA? That's what I want to know.
I wasn't able to make it this year,
Oh,
so I
okay.
don't actually know.
Reef dudes,
But
were the speeches full?
I didn't go to them.
Okay.
I
So,
forgot
so
why not?
because I was busy recording and filming and just talking to people. and
Talking to
he was
people
socializing.
he was doing
who,
the media side.
And then I forget about it by the time it comes.
yeah. And nothing
And to
wrong with
be
that.
honest, you're gonna get to watch it on BRS. I've truly enjoyed that they have gone through the effort of that, and I've watched every one that's come out.
Yeah,
Me
I
But
too. Me too. And I think
but
they're doing a great job. Nothing, there's no down here, by the way.
so
None.
so my personal opinion is, I think the audience wants to see the people that are newer to the hobby, like
Yes.
the YouTubers and
Yep.
stuff like that, get on that stage and do some of these presentations.
Yep,
So
Aquashella is making advances like crazy. No offense, I love
no,
all the shows, but they're making advances because they're doing what's cool and hip, and having people like Kat and people like Devin and people like maybe even me sometimes, whatever, coming and talking about actual experiences. Maybe not so much the science anymore because tonight we've sat here and talk about all these control systems that are really amazing, and a certain people really want to know this information. They're probably not on my channel, but whatever. And the bottom line is 90 or maybe 75, maybe 70, maybe 60, whatever. A big percentage of the people are just average hobbyists who, want to know the science for sure. That's important. It's really important that we have the scientific MASNA basis background. I absolutely,
so
because there's too much crap flying around that's not true. You go to just YouTubers, you're dealing with people who don't really know what the heck they're talking about and just flying by the seat of their pants, and everybody believes them, and that's a bad thing too. But when you have people like Devin who are actually, speaking to the vendors and speaking to the scientists and etc., it's just better coming from that perspective that's going to tell you how it is and not be so opinionated about their personal, scientific hopes, and maybe it isn't 150 years old. Not that Julian Sprung is, he's my idol. I have nothing bad to say about Julian Sprung, but you
I
hear
don't
what
know.
I'm
I got a few
saying?
gray hairs coming.
So do I, but you know what I'm saying? It's just, it's a different crowd.
I absolutely understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
And so like something I'm really good friends with Rico from Rico's Aquariums. Like my sister-in-law lives like 30 minutes from him. I visited him during the Beast build. I was on his live streams. And I know Greg Carroll from being in SC Mass when I was in Southern California for a long time. And something I tried to do this year was facilitate someone like Rico, who has, 10,000 followers.
Well, let me
basically.
say the other caveat to my thoughts. It has to be someone who is not, and I love Rico, don't get me wrong. I love Rico.
Yeah.
But I know from speaking to previous people at previous events that the issue becomes drama. It has to be someone
Okay.
with no
Yeah.
drama.
So my goal
Yeah, I'm
was to
stepping
take
in it.
someone
Right in it.
no, to take someone like Rico,
Yeah.
someone that like he has a reputation that I personally don't agree with necessarily the drama side,
Mm-hmm.
because maybe that's just me being blind to it
Quit
because
laughing.
I'm more
We're
friends
all
with him. But I wanted to take someone like that, get him on a speaking stage, and let them see that like the YouTubers of now have something to offer to the people that still have been doing this for 30 years.
May I ask, Devin, have you ever spoken at an event?
Yep.
Which ones?
I spoke at the Neptune meetup in Vegas last year, and I spoke at the Niagara Coral Show this spring.
Nice. I have too. I have actually
Nice.
also. YouTubers absolutely have something to offer, especially those of us that have put the time in, whether it be at one end or the other. But and Kat, I've seen Kat do many speeches for sure.
So I honestly work with Kat almost like on a weekly basis
She's
now,
awesome.
because like I'm still a low level Instagrammer, and I'm trying to grow it because like I legitimately with my business tried to stay as far under the radar to avoid the people I didn't want to service. And I will openly say that. But now I'm doing it because I enjoy, I enjoy this part of the hobby, the social media side.
Sure.
So I like posting like what few clients, products, and tanks I can post.
Sure.
I love showing them. I love showing my own tank. I love showing my builds.
Yeah.
And like Kat actually approached me at Rap after the Instagram meetup and was like, "Hey, I see what you're doing." Like, and I get to go to a couple of shows that a lot of people don't get to go to. So like, I got to go to Super Zoo this year because it's in Vegas every year. So I got to go see stuff that a lot of people didn't get to see yet, because it's kind of the where everybody in the industry goes and shows their new products to the distributors. So that was a really cool one. So like,
I know. I'm jealous for sure.
well, my ultimate goal is to go to Interzoo next year, but
Oh,
I just
wow.
don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah. Well, I know that I was working on an article for Masna, and some things fell apart because they wanted things done strictly based on a certain criteria. My writing style is not the same, and just a lot of it was my fault. Please believe. But
So
the bottom line is that
that's where like,
and the people
so
that worked for marketing last year had some things, so I just think that, yeah, focusing more on the younger generation, maybe.
so things are changing, like openly and honestly. Like, we're losing 2 board members this year.
Is that
And
a good or
don't-
bad thing?
So one of them is my mentor, who I'm very sad to see
Oh, wow.
leave, is Tom. Tom's in Vegas, and he's my mentor.
Tom,
And he just
oh, he's amazing.
he's amazing, but he just wants to experience Mazda and the hobby as a hobbyist,
Right.
and not necessarily go through those headaches.
Yeah, because
Where
it got made difficult. Devin, have you ever dealt with the board and such?
I've met them and been out for dinners with them and stuff. So kind of not in like a
Kevin, Rob, and
yeah, like I know Kevin. Like I
Christine.
film. Yeah, like I did like a promotional video for Matinee last year and
Yeah.
a few things. So like I've met them through some of the stuff.
Well, to be clear, I don't know the people you just mentioned. I'm sure they're amazing. I just think it's great if you are currently focusing on a different audience,
Mhm.
broader audience.
Yeah,
So
like I know Kevin and Tom, but I guess
Yeah, I know Kevin, of course, but
Yeah.
yeah,
So as
and
like
he tries.
as the membership director position kind of dictates, is to expand the hobby, like the club.
You're the
and
right
hobby.
person for the job.
And I personally, like, open-endedly told them, like, the only way I'll take this job is if we open the doors to new things, because like I love Sanjay, I love everything Sanjay has to tell us, but Sanjay's given the same speech the last 5 years. He won't let anyone record it. And I'm like, what's new that Sanjay's going to tell us?
Well, and now
Like-
see, I disagree there too because I think listen, I want it all and more. Okay, no, I'm teasing you, but the bottom line is those greats always have a place. I did not at all mean that it should
No.
be replaced. I just meant more diversity.
No.
Like last year, like this previous year, I suggested a few people, and they didn't make a place because they don't have enough whatever. I don't know, but
They're the most speakers they've ever had this year, though.
I know. Yep, and they did a great job. I won't say anything else. They did a great job.
And I totally get it. Like I'm super excited that they're doing the like meetups now and that kind of stuff.
But they do them all at the same time. How can you go to everything? Too much is sometimes, I don't know.
And that's my fear, is like that we've had the most speakers we've ever had, but I'm also like, what if we backed it down by 10 speakers and gave them an extra 5 minutes apiece?
For the Vegas one,
Yeah.
with the 20 speakers or 25, 20, whatever it was.
30 and 30.
Yeah, that was almost too many because there's so many going on. Like to try and choose who you go to, then they're not all as busy because it's so spread out.
This year. There was more this year from my knowledge. Yeah, and I'm like, I don't like.
Can I just tell you that Paula Carlson came to me and said, and I'm sorry if I'm calling out names, but she came to me and said, Women in Reefing is at the same time as Julian Sprung. That can't happen. Okay, that can't happen. So we started going through and we started saying, well, when could we have Women in Reefing when it wouldn't intervene with a female speaker? Obviously that we can't do that. And then also someone that, we want to hear ourselves. And we literally could not find a place because all the speakers were good. I wasn't trying to insinuate that any of the speakers were not good. I just meant that if your personal job is to cater to the next generation of reef keeping, you might want to include a few maybe not so well known, but have some good information people, or maybe YouTubers, and then also the spacing. I know it's got to be so incredibly difficult to fit so much into one weekend. It's crazy, but I don't know. That's my 2 cents. We couldn't even find a time to do it.
You're absolutely right. Like, and like I waterlogged lives out here, and she was working on that event too. So
you know what? I mean, what about like, and nobody gives a shit about my opinion, but what about like having, speakers based on the topic? Like instead of just bringing in the greats that know everything, which they do, and they have a place always. I know a few greats that were offended they weren't asked to speak. To be honest,
for the aquaculture this year.
yes, but
Yeah, I openly and honestly
but you can't. How can you
was
give everybody? You know, I hear you.
I get that, but like I honestly, I thought, why wasn't one of those people
Right.
one of the Seahorse people? To be honest,
Well, I wasn't even talking about a seahorse person, but
no,
right,
but to be honest, that it's part of our hobby,
right,
and most of the people that do seahorses also do something else. To be honest,
right.
like
Yeah,
they could, like is it? I can't ever remember her name. Seahorse Savvy,
Alyssa. She spoke.
Alyssa.
She was a speaker. She didn't get there
Yeah,
because of the storm, but yeah,
yeah. But I was like, oh, I would love, like, I would love to sit down and, just
yeah.
have had Alyssa do a full talk about all the stuff she breeds.
Oh yeah,
Because to be honest, she's pushed your side of the hobby out to a lot more people than
oh yeah.
have ever touched that part of the hobby.
No, agreed. She's
Like,
amazing, and I was so glad to see that she was a speaker. Absolutely, that
yeah,
was important for sure. But I know I can't imagine. You know, we can sit here and make comments. I can because I'm not in charge of it, and I don't. You know, I can't even imagine how difficult it is to get all of it into one show because you got to have the greats, and if they're not invited, they're offended, and you got to have the new people, and if they're not, I can't even imagine. Job's definitely yours, for sure.
I'm happy that I'm not going to be in the scheduling, but I will be on the committee
Sure.
probably. So, but if I mean that's if I get selected.
Well, we'll
But
appreciate whatever you put out for sure. I didn't mean to complain.
I mean, I just like I'm sad to see a changing of the guard because the people that are leaving are Tom and Rob. But at the same time, I'm like I'm happy to see it because I'm hoping it just brings some new light to the group and the hobby and what can happen.
Right. Well, yeah. Like reef dudes. I'm curious. When you made the video, and if you don't want to say, you don't have to. But I'm curious. When you made
Mhm.
the advertising video, and when you've worked
Mhm.
with different, maybe not just the particular one we're talking about now, but in general, when you work with
Mhm.
different companies or corporations or entities to do these things, do they have an extremely ridiculous amount of rules and how you have to do it, or do they just let you have free reign?
It's a mix. I've had one where they wanted something very specific, and I've had others that are like, yeah, just make a video on something good.
Hmm.
Use your
Okay.
creative freedom, do what you want, make something good.
Yeah, because
So
well, I
I've,
mean
I've
that's
had both.
yeah, that's what. Do you feel that you did better on the creative or the this
Yeah,
is
because if they want me to say specific things, I feel more scripted and awkward versus I'm a very much wing it kind of person.
yeah.
Like I script nothing. Like there's been like 2 or 3 videos I tried scripting in the past, and I think they're all terrible because I look like I'm reading it because I am.
Oh,
So I don't like that. And then I decided they're awful. I'm never gonna do that again. So
right.
I have a general idea in my head and I just wing it and go from there. But that's just what I
You're very you're very good
because
at
it's
that.
natural then, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because then it's natural. Anything else, I don't know. I feel too fake or forced. So I'm trying to read something. So
Right. Gotcha. Well,
yeah,
anyways, yeah,
off the
Yeah,
cuff for the win.
yeah. But
and that's very
that doesn't work out very well for me often because then I'm like, well, shit, what am I supposed to talk about? But you do an excellent job at it for sure.
Thanks.
I like when I do stuff like that. Because I do presentations for clients and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like I just
Hmm.
bullet point and wing it.
Hmm.
Hmm.
As long as I hit the bullets, like I normally, and
That's
I
a good way to
have,
go,
yeah,
right?
and
Absolutely.
Here's my 10 touch points. Then you could just talk about from there. It's really just a reminder of you what to talk about, right?
Yeah.
yeah, that's all it is.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Like I feel like I owe it to the hobby at this point to do something for it because I've been in it for like approaching that like 20-year mark,
Hmm.
and then and So I'm like, I feel like I love watching people that are new. At the
Yeah.
same time, I love watching, the pioneers, because we all look at things completely different.
Right. If we didn't have the veterans and the pioneers that showed us the way in many, especially when it comes to seahorses, without them,
Oh yeah,
we'd be nowhere. Um,
yeah, no.
and yet, the audience today kind of wants, the fast-paced, newest stuff. And I mean, it is a dangerous and fine line, sincerely, because, you know, some people, spread bad information. So you never
No,
know.
you're absolutely right, and like it's always like every show. I hear the great things that happen at these shows, and I hear the bad things that happen at the shows, and I'm like,
Well, before
I
anyone makes a move to judge, including myself, until you've run one, you can't even imagine. I can't even imagine.
oh
It's got to be
oh
ridiculous.
all I did was like media at
Yep.
Reefapalooza, and I was like, oh my god, I don't know how, because to be honest, I was getting there 2 hours before the show, if not three, and then I wasn't leaving till 2 o'clock in the morning every night. So it's like, to be there from 8 a.m. and then not leave it until 2 o'clock in the morning was just insane. Like,
Right.
I can only imagine when like you're actually like fully committed to staying on the resort, how hard it is not to just be plugged in continuously.
I hear you. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to ignore you. I'm responding because Reef Dudes is so multi-talented that he's been manning all the questions in the comments while I sit here and crap out and talk crap. So yeah, I'll send my half message here. Whoops, sorry. Anyways, is there anything either one of you wanted to share any further, because it is 11:45 here, so I'm gonna probably call it to a close. And just to be clear, please don't think that I was, saying anything bad, because I think Macna does an amazing job. Masna is crucially important to the hobby, and the leader and the trendsetter and the good advice setter for certain. But
I
and
think
I think they did a great job bringing people like you in to open things up. So good times for sure.
I think that every show does that.
Yes,
I
honestly, I've
honestly,
heard that Reef Palooza and Aquashell and all them are really rising up.
aquatic experience, like, they're only
Yeah,
one site, but it's still like, I don't think there's really a show out there that hurts this hobby. You
right.
know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's a really
So
good thing. We're growing. Hey, Reef Dudes, quit typing.
Yeah.
Do you think
Sorry.
that
Apparently, I'm going for another show now.
I'm totally teasing you? Do you feel that things are getting better?
what do you mean?
Industry, hobby, kind of like with slash conservation on the side. Big question.
So big question, very loaded.
I better believe it.
So industry, I
No, wait,
think,
wait,
is
wait,
doing
wait.
well.
I want to hear from you too, but I want to hear from Devin first.
Okay. Oh, go for it, Devin. Yeah.
All right. So, okay, ask specific. Okay, just in general, or is there a specific part?
You can be general.
Industry?
Yes.
I think in general the industry is growing. I feel the hobby is advancing for the people within it. It's a little harder for new people in the hobby because it is obviously more expensive than it once was. Especially some of like the stores and the vendors getting in and importing coral is a little more limited at the current moment in time.
Right.
The people that are in it are already addicted, so that's fine. But I feel like equipment advances are getting more extreme, so it's getting easier and easier to keep a tank. The higher prices, I feel, deters new people, but I think the industry in general is still growing and good.
Very good.
The whole new aspect, I do see some LFSs, shutting down or not as much, and I think that's one of the main drivers for getting new people into the hobby. So I think that is hurting the new people, but the people that are in it, I think is growing.
Okay, I want you to also answer, but Devin, final question is: do you feel that the larger companies, like, let's just be real vague and say like Amazon, like
Mhm.
not even in the industry, do you think that they're destroying or um, growing? The growing the hobby, the industry, aquaculture, making things better.
The Amazons are making things cheaper and more affordable for the people in it, but I also think on the counter side to that, they make it harder on the small businesses to try and compete with them on dry goods.
And do you think that that will cause problems? Like
I
the
think
the, the
I
valid
think it
people will
inevitably
be,
leads to more of them shutting down.
yeah.
The ones in their old school ways that don't want to change are going to have a harder time and likely, slowly fade off. Whereas some of the ones that are, a little more into innovating and going online and doing other stuff have more potential and hope to grow. And I think that's going to be the divide of the old school versus the newer mentality around it.
Well, before I let you answer, also, I want to say, Devin, thank you so much for sharing your opinions because I did totally put you on the spot. You're
That's
amazing,
fine.
and I agree. Now, go ahead.
So industry as a whole is doing better. I think we are growing as a whole, kind of that like Devin said, like the Amazons of the world are hurting the LFSs because, like, a good example is like 2 or 3 weeks ago, you could buy a, a large box of Instant Ocean on Amazon for $20, which I don't understand how that's possible because I know what it costs to buy Instant Ocean at cost,
Right.
and then they're gonna ship it next day. Like I didn't understand that, but like that hurts the hobby because dry goods are where 90% of these retail stores, LFSs, make their money. Like
Yeah, I wish Dan was still here. He'd have so much to say. But go on.
like fish in general is not a super profitable area of the hobby. And then coral is, I would say, more profitable now because of the Indo ban, but harder to get a hold of.
Mm.
Sure.
So as someone that like sees what's coming in on the wholesale side, unfortunately costs are getting higher. And the way that every business works is when your wholesale costs go up, your
Your
retail
prices
costs
go
go up.
right. Sure.
And is that going to limit the people that are new starting in the hobby? Absolutely. I
Which,
I I pray for Indo to open again, but I honestly know that even if Indo reopens, they will still
Prices will
um
be high.
yeah,
yes.
they're going to be higher. They're like I personally know 3 maricultures people in Indonesia, and they said like we stayed alive because we we have another business that can support us, but we're gonna have to find a way to make up for that
Well,
lost
that's
time.
where, yeah, but that's where the innovation comes in, and there are ways. I have hope. I certainly have hope.
Oh,
And
I mean,
yeah, aquaculture is the future, as Macna
and
sponsor.
I
So,
absolutely agree that aquaculture is the future, but I also think mariculture is somewhat more of the future because like it's hard to maintain ocean parameters in a fish tank
It's easy
where
to do it in the ocean.
it's easy to do it in the ocean.
it is,
And
but the
like,
thing is that you know what? Actually, I have to apologize because the thing is the entire stream I've been talking about how can I get the best bang for my buck? How can I get this controller and monitor my systems for a price that is okay with me?
mhm,
Because it's on my terms. And the bottom line
yeah,
is, if people care about the hobby truly, and this isn't to the newcomers, obviously, but if people are invested in and care, then they, I should be willing to pay the price to get good equipment at the price, as long as the vendors are being fair. And, sometimes I feel like, well, I probably don't have a right to my thoughts, but the bottom line is sometimes I feel like they juice the prices or whatever, but it doesn't matter if they're being innovative and they're expanding the options, then they should be supported, but
Yeah.
okay,
I
The
mean,
other thing is too, like, value is perceived, right? What you think
yeah,
something's worth and someone else does are two completely different things.
right,
So it's all relative. Like, my wife's really into art stuff, and she'll spend like a fortune on like pens and pencils and notebooks. I'm like, I don't get it. But then I'm like, I do the same thing on fish stuff, so I'm the same thing, right? Like, everyone has
right,
a hobby, and people spend money on things that they love. At the end of the day, it brings you joy, it makes you happy, and that's what people spend money on. And it is relative. Like, like one person will drop a couple $100 on something and not be overly worried about it, or another person, they'll want the $20 China knockoff version. So I mean, yeah.
I hear you.
I
I
mean,
just
like,
I just think we need to focus a little bit, maybe me, if not you guys, but maybe me focus more on making it easier for people. As you mentioned, both of you mentioned that it's difficult for newcomers because of this, that, and the other, and we need newcomers. We do.
so, like, the other thing I struggle with in the hobby is like that everyone is like SPS is king, because I will
I say
tell you,
Seahorses is king, but go ahead.
I prefer a
for
mix of
for
everything.
coral SPS, everybody's like, oh, that's the biggest deal. For me, my personal thing is, I think whatever looks good in your tank is king for you,
Sure.
because I get more compliments on my softy LPS tanks than I ever do on my SPS tanks for my customers.
You actually you have a valid point because I prefer the LPS. What were you gonna say, Devin?
No, I was laughing because anyone not in the hobby, they just anything swaying, moving, they're all over it,
Yep.
right? And
Yeah,
anyone's in the hobby, they're like, "Oh yeah, give me that stick."
Right. Right. It
It's
is
funny.
funny, but
Hmm.
all right. Well,
and
see.
and
Go ahead.
and that's like, I think that if we as a hobby opened up those doors to be like, it's okay to have an awesome softy tank, like, where I think a lot of people get like put down for having these zinnia gardens and these Kenya tree gardens. I'm like, I think some of those tanks are some of the prettiest.
And hey, I'm working on it, man. I'm the macroalgae queen. No, I'm not. Chris is the macroalgae queen, but I'm working on it. The Gorks and macro tanks are coming around, man. It's slow, but it's coming. It's
I
cool.
and I
Nice.
and I think, like, to each their own, but it's awesome. Like,
Yeah.
and I think that's one of the things about this hobby is, like, you don't have to be a stickhead to enjoy this hobby. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I
No.
would happily do a tank with just zoas or just rock flowers, and it'd be amazing. Like,
When you said you were gonna do the nano tank just rock flowers, I was like, oh my god, that's like
oh, there's
my
like 40 to
one of my
50 in
dream
there. It
tanks.
looks amazing. Like, I still have acros up top and torches and stuff, but the
Yeah,
whole bottom half is rock flowers and it's creeping up. I still got to figure out what I'm doing with them in the tank move.
And
that's
most of the
that's
people that start off and try to do like mixed reefs with everything, they don't get that it's a lot more difficult than to focus on one thing that you actually like. That maybe
well,
not isn't the big thing in competition and in the big reef groups, but you actually like looking at and you
stick,
actually enjoy.
I don't discriminate. I like it all.
sticks
I
also
know, but
add a
mixed is hard.
much. Mix is hard. Sticks add a definite increase in the complexity of this hobby.
Sure.
So I openly encourage people to start with a softy tank. Like,
Hmm.
I've
Oh,
seen
for
some
sure.
of the coolest Zoa only tanks, or
Hmm.
rock flower tanks, or you know, you know, big gourds, and all those tanks are awesome.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And and once if you can master those, and then like make your way to the LPS tank and master that, then take yourself to the SPS tank. Start with some starters. Like
Absolutely.
I'm not saying you can't start with an SPS. I think it just makes your life a lot harder.
Right.
Yep. Yeah, I'm helping a buddy do his first tank ever, and he's just getting all LPS and softies.
Awesome.
And you know what? Every time someone comes over to his house, they're gonna be like, "Oh, your tank is awesome."
Yep.
That's
Because
yeah. Go ahead.
because honestly, the clients that I have, that's what they want. Like when you have to realize like these tanks are also like something you use to entertain other people,
Right.
and like those are the tanks that entertain anyone.
Mm-hmm.
Where like these tanks where people are like, "Oh, look at my Walt Disney," and like you have to be in the hobby hardcore to even know what that piece is.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like,
Right. Well,
so
and
I mean,
anybody watching this, if you look at the actual screen that you're looking at right now, those gorgeous seahorses are truly seahorses that belong to me. So, hey, you can do pretty if you don't even like coral and such. But anyways, all right, guys. Well, listen, I so appreciate you guys coming and chatting. You never know what you'll get on Wine Wednesday, right? Poor Denny left us. Dan had to call it quits, and now I do,
Wait, wait, wait.
unfortunately.
Wait. Do you actually have wine for Wine Wednesday?
I always
Yeah.
have
he
wine for
did.
Wine Wednesday. What do you
I
mean?
haven't seen you sipping on any.
The whole time? What do you mean?
Ah, there it is. Okay.
Yeah. Anyways,
I substituted a beer for Wine Wednesday.
well, I appreciate you bringing the beer. And Reef Dudes, you know what we need to do? Sincerely, we need to bring you on as an actual, instead of just a commenter and joiner, you need to come in as a guest and share your opinions on some different topics. We'll work it out on the side, but I'm thinking like very specific topics that you can give some advice on. Because thank you,
Sure.
as I
Yep.
say to you also. I mean, you guys are all so great coming in here and helping us all. Because us Seahorse folks are a little, no, I'm just kidding. But anyways, I am gonna call it to a close. I'm on my second glass, so it's late. But thank you guys. Did you guys have anything else you wanted to say? Actually,
Happy Wednesday.
happy
Yeah, just
Wednesday.
thank you for the opportunity. Like
Absolutely.
that's the part I enjoy.
I love that you guys come, and I hope others. I know others enjoy it by the they watch this afterwards. It's amazing. It's crazy. But I hope you enjoyed it. Come back, and we'll get Devin in here to talk some more, and Denny, and everyone that has come tonight. Dan, I didn't forget you either, and Harkins Aquatics, and everyone. Yes, appreciate you all. Come back, and you guys say bye first because I always cheers and then I cut it.
Cheers.
Okay, I'll see you. Yeah, cheers.
All right. Bye, guys. See you next week. Wine Wednesday. Bye. Cheers.
Bye. Cheers.